He's ready to go 9 innings tonight.
Another guy who's ready to go is a guy who used to be his teammate at Seattle. Another one that got away from the Mariners, Mike Moore, who certainly cashed in last year in his first season with the Oakland A's.
Yeah, you talk about a rejuvenated career. Mike Moore signing as a free agent with Oakland, always was a under 500 pitcher except for one season with the Seattle Mariners. Last year, won 19 games. He's a much better pitcher with a much better ball club.
The Seattle alumni on the mound tonight. Mark Langston against Mike Moore. We're ready in Anaheim. We're back in the Big A in Anaheim, and this lineup is presented by Sears Die Hard. The Oakland A's will lead off with Ricky Henderson in left field, Carney Lansford batting second at third base. Jose Canseco will DH tonight. Mark McGwire hitting cleanup at first. Dave Henderson in center, Terry Steinbach behind the plate. Lance Blankenship gets the start in right field. Walt Weiss batting eighth and playing shortstop. Mike Gallego hitting number 9, playing second base. This is the lineup that will try and get a hit off Mark Langston.
All right, defensively for the California Angels in the outfield, and right is Caudell Washington. Devon White is the center fielder. Dante Bichette, the left fielder. Keep your eye on him. He already has 5 assists in the outfield. Around the infield for the Angels, Jack Howell, the third baseman. Kent Anderson is the shortstop. Johnny Ray at second, and Wally Joyner plays first. Behind the plate, calling the pitches for Mark Langston is Mr. Parrish, Mr. Lance Parrish.
The weather for California, a little nippy, but for other parts of the country, simply marvelous. 62 degrees, partly cloudy. There is a wind going out tonight, and you can see pretty good rate at 20-25 mile an hour at times. Chance of rain. Get that out of here. It did rain a little bit in Los Angeles last night, but the Dodgers and Giants played, so we're just getting the rain out of here. Don't even think about it. Durwood Merrill behind the plate tonight, 13-year veteran. John Shulock at first base, Tim McClellan at second base, and the crew chief, 22 years in American League umpire, Don Denkinger, as the Angels take the field. And before we get lost in the Langston-Moore battle, Tommy, I mean, you're talking the two teams, along with Kansas City, that went head-to-head last year. You're talking two teams that have got off to a fast start in the first week staying out west. Mark Langston and the Angels are 5-2. Defending champion Oakland A's are 5-1, and they'll take those weeks anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, that's right. The California Angels, as they get ready for this season, they've played 1 week of baseball. They realize already they have an outstanding starting pitching staff. You're looking at one of the reasons right there in Mark Langston. So they have confidence this year. Last year, they didn't have the confidence that they could play with the Oakland Athletics. This year, the Athletics have a couple of teams that have that confidence, the Kansas City Royals and the California Angels.
So Mark Langston, who the Oakland players say they hit pretty well in the past. Although talking to manager Tony La Russa says, I don't know how we beat him, but we seem to do well against him. The Oakland A's will try and become the first team in 1990 to get a base hit off of Mark Langston. And Langston and Mike Moore, between the two of them, really hold just about all of the Seattle Mariner pitching marks. So it's very interesting. These are two who got away, and in this game there's about a half a dozen ex-Seattle Mariners. So maybe things are changing up the coast in Seattle with the new ownership, but Seattle fans ought to really enjoy this game tonight.
Yeah, they should. And one of the reasons that the Angels pitching staff has really gotten to the point where they are is their pitching coach Marcel Latchman, which is another story in itself. The Latchman brothers are here tonight. Rene Latchman, third base coach with the Athletics. But look at the way the Angels pitching has gone from 88 to 89, and Marcel's certainly responsible for a lot of that.
Well, you don't lower your runs per game by 1.2 and have nothing to do with it. Of course, Lance Parrish coming over last year. Bob Boone preceded him behind the plate, and Marcel said, you know, Boone took kind of a bad rap, but yes, we did go inside a lot last year. Finley became an outstanding pitcher. He's already off to a good start this year. They got their closer without a question, at least at this point in Harvey. But they spent a lot of bucks in the offseason, and they got this man, Mark Langston. And the first to step up against him will be Ricky Henderson. We're glad you could join us here on ESPN. Chris Berman and Tommy Hutton at the Big A. the Angels and the A's. And a couple of teams that we expect to see in the thick of it for 6 months, and a couple of teams you'll be seeing very often on our late night telecasts on Tuesdays and on Friday night, which is real nice as we get to come out here and see some of the best teams in baseball and some of the best players like Mark Langston getting a little nibble in the glove before he goes up against Rickey Henderson, who's trying to get a little nibble at the plate. First pitch misses. Rickey Henderson. We know he was at the park early. We gave him a ride over. Couldn't wait for the team bus. Wanted to get here an hour before the A's did. Up top, so 2-0. Rickey Henderson already with 1 leadoff home run this year. Extends his major league record to 41 leadoff home runs. And he might lead off the game by being a base runner, which is not exactly what you want if you're the Angels or anybody playing him. He's just such a catalyst.
The thing that the Athletics will be able to see from Langston is that good fastball, a curveball, then a hard-breaking ball that's not quite a slider, not quite a curve.
Well, they have no hit yet, but Rickey Henderson has now walked 1,000 times, which means 1,000 times he's taken years off the guy on the mound. Not to mention the guy behind the plate.
Now it's a good matchup when you see Rickey Henderson at first base. Mark Langston has a very good move to first. He has 2 or 3 different types of moves, and that's what makes it difficult for a base runner if the pitcher varies, and Langston is able to do that.
Another note, Lance Parrish had an excellent spring at throwing out base runners. He's always had the good arm and fallen off a little bit the last couple of years. And there's a good move right there as Henderson had to scurry back. Way to go, Tom. He went out on a limb, and already we found that there was wood there.
When in doubt, you check with the pitching coach, and you also ask the first baseman. Wally Joyner was telling me about the various moves that Mark Langston has, and Joyner now has been on the a couple of different ends as a base runner and now as his first baseman.
Carney Lansford, the batter. Henderson, a leadoff walk, his 1,000th in his career. Langston step up. Rickey told us he expected Langston with a kind of the shuffle step, too, to move over there. Kind of the change of pace.
Yeah, he's got the leg lift where he can throw to first. He has the variation in the pitch to the plate, and he'll also step off and snap throw over to first base.
Rickey Henderson doesn't go anywhere as Langston has yet to locate the plate. 5 straight balls for Mark Langston, and there's Carney, who already is off to another strong start. He's a notorious strong starter. Last year never finished, hitting .336, finishing second to Kirby Puckett in the batting race. And Carney hitting over 400 for the first week of the season. That more a courtesy toss. Henderson with 3 steals on the year thus far. We saw 2 in the game we did last Tuesday night. Leaves him 64 behind Lou Brock on the all-time list for stolen bases, and 18 behind the record in the American League set by one Ty Cobb. And Langston finally registers a strike.
Interesting that he finally got the strike in with a breaking ball to a gentleman who started his career right here in California, Carney Lansford. Think Rickey's worried about that?
No, and I don't really think he's worried about this. You know, one thing interesting about the stolen base leaders, only Lou and Rickey among the top 10 played baseball after 1930. So that shows you just what a feat it is, because back then, and many of the guys on the top 10 list we're talking gay 90s ball players back in the Wee Willie Keeler era. Henderson and Brock, the only guys to play baseball in the last 60 years on that list. So that puts it even more into perspective. Langston again throwing over.
And we've already seen the different type moves of Langston. Let's give Rickey Henderson some credit, though, too. With all those steals, he certainly is able to read Mark Langston as well as most of the other pitchers in the American League.
You don't steal all those bases without being able to read, guys. That's for sure. Langston to the plate. Carney fouls it back.
You know, we had a chance when we were in Los Angeles. Maury Wills popped his head in the booth and said hello to us. And Maury always used to say that he felt he could steal better off left-handers. Rickey Henderson doesn't think that. He thinks lefties are a little harder to steal off.
I think lefties have gotten a little wiser. Of course, there'll be many that dispute that about lefties, right? A little flakier, maybe. Top of the first, no score. The A's and the Angels. 1-2 pitch from Langston to Carney Lansford. Goes over to Joyner again to try and keep Henderson close.
And that was that quick one. A lot of pitchers can't throw that snap throw over to first base.
Will Carney be a much better hitter with Henderson leading off all the time? Of course, 336 last year is not bad. Or would that bother him some?
No. The reason I say no is because he's such a veteran. He's so patient at the plate. He'll see a lot of fastballs, and an inexperienced hitter would be bothered by Rickey Henderson dancing around, stealing some bases, but not Carney Lansford.
Lansford was here, as you mentioned. Big trade to Boston. Over to Oakland. A consistent player. Throughout his career, lifetime 294 average. 5 times hitting 300 or better. Won the batting title in the American League in 1981. That was the strike-shortened season when he hit 336, the exact figure that placed him second last year. Again, we look at Henderson.
You know, sometimes I think early in a ball game, I really feel a pitcher can throw over too many times because it's really throwing Langston's whole game plan off right here. He has others to deal with, and he's spending so much time on Rickey Henderson, that particular throw, the snap throw.
Lansford fouls one back behind first base. Count remains at 2-2. No hits yet. Of course, only one batter, and that was the walk to Henderson. But Mark Langston working his 8th inning as a California Angel. And what a way to break in with all the dollars and cents and the crowd expectancy, and not give up a base hit. Ripped to right field. There's the first hit. Langston gives up. Henderson will stop at second base as Cordell Washington is up with the ball quickly. So he's human. He can give up base hits here in Anaheim.
Well, and that too is the problem that happens if you really center your attention on the runner. Langston is worried so much about Rickey Henderson. His pitch to Carney Lansford, a fastball right out over the plate. That's just what Lansford's looking for, a pitch that he can send the other way with that hole open on the right side.
Here's Jose Canseco, the boos out of respect. Jose DHing tonight. What a play he made last Tuesday in our game as he made a beautiful catch in foul territory, then spun to nail Gaetti at second base, trying to advance from first to second and a foul ball. But Jose from time to time will get a rest, as will some of the other players. They will DH, and Blankenship can play any of 6 positions, as he is tonight in right field. There's Langston's pitch for a strike. Jose Canseco. There's Lance Parrish behind the plate. Really enjoying work. There's Langston turning around second. Talking with Lance before the game, Tommy, he said that, you know, when I was hitting against Langston, I always thought I could hit the pitch was high. It didn't look like it was that much steam on it, but you get to the plate, you try and chop at it, and the pitch has a lot of hair on it. That one rose a little bit too much, way up top for a ball.
He has that type of fastball that explodes. He generates a lot of power with his legs. You can see by the high leg kick that he gets it all going, and he has the type of fastball that players just say explodes when it gets to the plate. This guy can explode him in the other direction,
yes,
though, Canseco.
They may have him out at second base. The turnaround throw to Johnny Ray. And maybe he didn't go over there too many times. Rickey Henderson has been picked off second base.
Henderson still not in agreement with the call of the second base umpire Tim McClellan, but let's have one more look, and you can see the tag right there before Rickey's hand got to the bag. Johnny Ray and Mark Langston, even though they have worked a lot of attempts, Langston over to first base a lot. What do you think Rickey may have been thinking right there? You won't do that again?
Something to that effect.
But with the 3 weeks of spring training, shortened spring training, they didn't get a chance to work on that a lot. Worked to perfection right here, though.
Nice play, and Henderson is gone. So now 1 out. With Lansford still at first base, Jose Canseco at the plate. The count is 1-1. Top of the first, no score. Inside.
You know, you have to give Johnny Ray credit in that pickoff of Ricky Henderson. Ray, the second baseman, that's a good timing play. That's not a play where you look for daylight. That's the shortstop side of the bag. Second base, it's timing. Once you see him break, now you whirl and throw as a pitcher, and you have to put it right there. Langston did, and it worked perfectly.
Of course, it's nice being a lefty when a second baseman has to come over because he can see him, Langston, kind of out of the corner of his other eye. Whereas the shortstop, he's blind. So he knows where Ray is and when to turn. There's the pitch at strike to Canseco. Jose with a home run. Our game in game 2 last week.
So far, early in this game, Langston has had better control with that breaking ball.
Throws at it a couple of speeds. Ball is hit awfully high to center field. Devon White charging in. I think he came in a little bit farther than he thought originally when Canseco hit it, but there's 2 down. Lansford stays at first. And that'll bring up the cleanup batter, Mark McGwire.
Doug Rader has done a tremendous job. Last year, his first year as manager of the Angels.
16-game improvement from the team the year before. You know, he did that before at Texas when he took over the Texas Rangers earlier in the 80s. They improved by 13 games his first year.
But he'll tell you he's a different manager, different person than he was as a manager of the Rangers.
He's got a different team, by the way.
There's that slow breaking ball. We saw a couple of harder breaking pitches to Canseco. No help from the first base umpire on that check swing of McGwire, but that's how Langston will vary his pitches. Here's a look at that slow one. So he has 2 different types of breaking pitches.
And when you have a heater up there like he does in the 90s, that makes it just that much tougher. That's up top. 2-0 to McGwire. Lansford at first base, 2 outs, top of the first. Oakland and California, no score. If you're just tuning in, Ricky Henderson walked. Eventually went to second on a single by Lansford, but Langston a couple of moments ago picked him off second base. Move to first, Morey. Courtesy toss. 2 teams that should be there all the way. They were last year. Angels were in first place, tied with the A's on August 20th. They went on a 15-game road trip last year, and it kind of fell out a little bit. But then again, as a strike to McGwire, and the scorching pace that the A's were setting, despite all their injuries last year. The A's winning 99 games. And so if you're going to strap them up and get ready to contend for the division in the AL West, I mean, 95 wins is very nice, but it may not do the trick. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, not this year. 95 might not do it.
Hasn't the last couple of years. The A's won 104 and then 99. This one's fouled back. So 2s across the board. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Here in the top of the first, Mark McGwire has hit a homer in each of Bob Welch's starts this year. Welch isn't going tonight. Does that mean? He said, now don't start drawing conclusions. 2 homers this year for McGwire. Welch winning those first 2 games. So much for that bad spring training he had, huh?
Yeah, how about that?
Swung out and missed. Strike 3. So Langston does give up a hit, but gets out of the first inning. Oakland, no score. California coming to bat. And back at Anaheim in the bottom of the first inning, this lineup is presented by Sears Die Hard. The California Angels against Mike Moore will go with Devon White leading off in center field. Johnny Ray at second base. Wally Joyner at first. Chili Davis will DH tonight. Dante Bichette batting 5th in left field. Claudell Washington, the right fielder. Lance Parrish behind the plate. Jack Howell at third, and Kent Anderson batting 9th, playing shortstop.
All right, the defense for Tony La Russa, Lance Blankenship in right field, Dave Henderson, the center fielder, Ricky Henderson in left. Around the infield, Carney Lansford and Walt Weiss on the left side, Mike Gallego, the second baseman, Mark McGwire at first, Terry Steinbach behind the plate, and on the mound, 30 years of age, 6'4", Mike Moore, a 19-game winner last year, has a good fastball, will throw a breaking pitch, but a pitch that he's really worked on over the last year or so is the forkball. And a lot of people say that's one of the reasons he became a 19-game winner, but many others will just say the reason was he pitched for the Oakland Athletics, the world champions.
Well, he's a good pitcher. I think everybody has known that, Tommy, and Moore is 0-1, but really gave up a 3-run homer in the first inning of his one start to Kent Hrbek at the Twins. Those are the only runs he gave up. But unfortunately for Mike Moore, the A's got him no runs that game as Tapani and company beat them. So therefore he is 0-1, but won 19 games last year. And Mike Moore and Mark Langston, two guys that got away from the Seattle Mariners. Last year batters hit .219 opposing Mike Moore. And of course he was 3-0 in the postseason, winning games 2 and 4 of the World Series, winning one of the games against Toronto. Devon White, center fielder who really started with a flourish last year, made the All-Star team, but then really tailed off, as did several of the Angels at the plate. Fouls this one back, and so we are 1-1. Devon White, born in Jamaica, hit .245 last year with 12 homers, 56 RBIs, 2 straight Gold Gloves in center field. He can run. 44 stolen bases. Isn't necessarily a fan of hitting leadoff, but that's what he's doing.
Yeah, there are some people that say that Devon White is the person that has to have a superstar type season for the Angels to win it this year in the West. And many feel he is capable of doing that.
Lansford weighing on the grass, and this one is hit to left, but Rickey will not lose that number and make the catch for out number 1. Look at Rickey Henderson now.
He's still upset about being picked off at second base. That's why he has that look.
I think so, but in talking about Rickey, he just looks like a different player than he did last year at this part of the season with the New York Yankees. And you saw him because you broadcast the Yankees last year.
He's starting to feel a little bit better right now after playing that line drive. Hit extremely well by Devon White. He went with a pitch that was away.
But Rickey is, I mean, he is just dedicated to be, you know, they want him to hit 25 homers, sure. They want him to, whatever they want him to do, he will do. And his defense, he was charging all around the park last week, early in the week, when we saw them against the Minnesota Twins. Johnny Ray, longtime Pittsburgh Pirate, steps up to the plate. Johnny Ray, in '88, had 83 RBIs and 42 doubles. Last year, fell off to 62 RBIs and 16 doubles. So that's really quite a fall off for Ray. You can rarely strike him out, however, so he's a great contact hitter.
Well, there was a reason that he had such a downspin in the doubles, and during the at-bats last year, he injured his wrist, and he's the type of player who doesn't like to sit out too much. First time he was ever on the disabled list, and he had a wrist injury, and that really hampered his season.
This pitch misses low. 1-2 the count to Johnny Ray. Last year at 304 lefty and only 262 righty, so he's at the better side of the plate if recent track record is to hold true.
Seems like every spring, wherever Johnny Ray might be, they wonder, well, will he be our left fielder, or will we DH him? Will he play second base? Will Mark McLemore play second base? But every year, Johnny Ray ends up playing somewhere and getting a lot of at-bats.
And he makes the most of them. He's been at, well, we'll wait for this pitch. Moore, 2-2. Chopped on weakly, and it's going to go foul. Johnny Ray, going into the season in almost 4,800 at-bats, struck out 285 times. Now, I know that's a lot of numbers that we're throwing at you, but you can do the math any way you want. Base 8, base 3. That means he strikes out something like once every 22, 23 at-bats. That's nice to have when you're a number 2 batter.
Yeah, a lot of times we talk about the perfect number 2 hitter. We have a couple of great ones here this evening. And Carney Lansford, who we saw last inning, Johnny Ray, who, as you mentioned, makes contact, rarely strikes out, can pull the ball if needed, but more often than not, with nobody on base, he can take the ball the other way, too.
Lifetime 291 batter, watches the pitch go outside, works the count to 3-2. Bottom of the first, no score. The A's and the California Angels. California dreaming on Tuesday night with Berman and Hutton. Glad you could be aboard. Johnny liked that. He smiled at that one. See, I thought that might work.
Mike Moore delivers to Johnny Ray. Fouled back on the left side. So the Angels and A's will play a 2-game set. Then California will hit the road for the first time this year. The A's will be going home to play Seattle. The Angels are making the most, of course, of their opening homestand, going 5-2 against the Mariners and the Minnesota Twins. They'll finally hit the road on Friday night at Minnesota when the Twins finally have a home game, the last team to have a home game in this kind of strange start for a season. This one is inside, and the Angels have their first base runner. Wally Joyner coming up. He's another guy whose power fell way off from what he did his first couple of seasons. When in 86 he had 100 RBIs, in 87 he had 117 RBIs. Last year falling off to 79 ribbies. But when it comes to fielding at first base, there are very few like Wally. Made 4 errors last year. And Joyner sends one to left field. Henderson is going back on it. Makes the catch. Base runner had Johnny Ray had gone down to second base. Now we'll get back to first. So with 2 down now, let's go back quickly to our Baseball Tonight studios and John Saunders.
Well, Chris and Tommy, bottom of the 9th, the Mets and the Cubs all tied up at 5. The bases are loaded with 1 out. Mitch Williams, not the wild thing there. Right across the plate, he strikes out Mark Carrion. Barry Lyons then comes to the plate. He already had a home run in the game. He pops out onto the 10th. Let's get back to Chris and Tommy.
All right, John, so in that case it was not Mark Carrion, my wayward son. As the game carries on, and with 2 down now here in the bottom of the first inning, Chili Davis at the plate, DH tonight. Chili a little bit of a hand problem, so he's not playing in the outfield tonight. Chili, 2 years a California Angel, both years has led them in RBIs, at 90 last year. Had 93 the year before. Where it's one time, it looked like he would be the phenom of the San Francisco Giants when he came up in the early 80s. Good, obviously a very good ball player. Never did hit the stride that many people expected him to hit. But if you can lead a team like the Angels in RBIs every year, that's I think Doug Rader will take it. Pitch outside to Chili.
Have to laugh. Chili before the ball game around the batting cage. You mentioned a slight hand problem, but the other problem, the reason he's not in the outfield, he said, is a Dante Bichette problem. Dante Bichette is off to a tremendous start for the Angels, has a tremendous arm in the outfield, and so he's found himself starting and playing almost every day.
Big home run to win the game in 10 on Saturday night against Minnesota did Bichette. But Davis is the cleanup hitter. He grounds the ball to first. McGuire will keep it himself. And we are out in the bottom of the first inning. No score. The A's and Angels will be right back.
Welcome back. We'll get you back to your game in just a few moments' time. Let's check the National League scoreboard. The ones that are done have been done for a while, except for the Expos over the Phillies. Delino DeShields drove in the winner. Mark Carrion has a home run for the Mets. Not enough, though. It's tied 5-5 in the 10th. Pittsburgh well over St. Louis. Houston leads Atlanta. The Dodgers. Hubie Brooks drove in the game's run. Let's get back to Chris and Tommy.
Back at Anaheim Stadium in California. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton. We are no score. The Oakland A's, the defending champion Oakland A's, say that with respect, against the California Angels, the fastest guns in the West. The 5-1 A's, the 5-2 Angels. Mark Langston did give up a hit. He gave it up to Carney Lansford, so he's finally human. And now stepping in to face him in the top half of the second inning is Dave Henderson, the center fielder. A former teammate of Langston's with the Seattle Mariners. Now we could say that about Dave Henderson, Ken Phelps, who won't bat against Langston tonight. And Henderson, another A, off to a hot start, hitting over 300 as a team already, the Oakland A's. A check swing, which goes foul. Rick Honeycutt was a starter on the Mariners staff before Langston and Moore got there. He was away really before Langston and Moore came in there, went in a trade to L.A. But former Mariners are all over this ballpark, and we're not in the seats.
Dave Henderson and Mark Langston, pretty good buddies too. They're neighbors up in Bellevue, Washington. So Dave said he had a little inside on Langston.
Ground ball to third. Jack Howell over to Joyner in time. And there's one down in the Oakland second.
Well, have you ever heard the expression trying to find the handle? That's what Jack Howell was doing at third base on that ground ball. Watch this. Howell makes the play. Whoop, there's the handle. And he gets enough on the throw. That's a difficult play once you have trouble finding and getting a good grip on the baseball.
It's kind of like the sky cap at the airport when you make your red eye every week, trying to find the handle for your bags. As he throws them on the plane as you run to the red eye. Terry Steinbach, the catcher.
I'm in the best shape of my career.
Oh, you have to be. Terry Steinbach, who very quietly has become one of the premier catchers in baseball. Two-time All-Star. Just continues to get better. Very upset that the North Stars lost to the Blackhawks last night in Game 7 of the Norris Finals. Big Minnesota North Star fan. Nice how you call pulling the chain on Steinbach a little bit.
There's that slow breaking ball, and it had Steinbach out front. See, his front foot plants down a little bit too soon, and he's fooled. Even though the pitch was up,
he was above it, though.
He got away with it.
He was above the ball, too. 0-2 pitch to Steinbach, top of the second. Foul back to the right side.
Let's see if we can keep track of this. So far tonight, every time Langston has thrown the real slow curveball, he's come back with a fastball up in the strike zone.
Mark Langston, big rock and roll fan, which means he'll be a fast friend of ours. Misses outside. So the piece in Sports Illustrated, he's become fast friends with Bruce Hornsby.
He hopes to get as much range from his outfielder.
Very good, Tom. Well, you hang around with me and you never know what's going to happen. It's just the way it is. Terry Steinbach. Homered in his first major league at bat. Homered in his first All-Star at bat. Key role in the A's winning last year. Grounder to Howell. Finds the hand a little better this time. Close play. Too close. He's safe. Just a slow bouncer who's too far back on the ball. And Steinbach showing speed that you don't normally expect from a catcher.
Howell surrounds the ball and gets himself in a pretty good throwing position. Got something on the throw, but Steinbach just does beat the throw from Howell, even though Wally Joyner was out with a pretty good stretch. So who says all the catchers can't run?
Well, no, I didn't say that. Nice call by John Shulock. There's no question.
I like the way Howell circled the ball. He didn't come right at it. That time he got a pretty good angle to make his throw, and you can see that on that angle, Steinbach touches the base just before Joyner makes the catch.
So 2 hits now off Langston, one by Lansford, one by Terry Steinbach, and Lance Blankenship steps to the plate. He's a guy that you don't have much track record on, but Tony La Russa said, as we said before, Tommy, at the start of the game, that he expects to play Blankenship in right every now and then to give Jose Canseco a shot to rest the legs, DH, play him in left field for Ricky Henderson later on in the week, he thought. He thought maybe on the weekend he might play him at third base once. He can play second, could play short in an emergency, although Gallego would probably go over there and Blankenship would go to second. Can play 6 positions very well. And La Russa just is so high on him. And when you can bust into this lineup, obviously you're quite a prospect. He's more than a prospect now. He's starting for the world champs. Slow one in there for a strike. So Langston, after he walked Henderson to start the game on 4 pitches, really now much more in control.
Getting back to Blankenship, you talk about all the positions he can play. He has replaced Tony Phillips, who went as a free agent, signed with the Detroit Tigers, wanted to be an everyday player. And Blankenship, even though La Russa lost to Tony Phillips, now has a Lance Blankenship.
Swung on and missed by Blankenship. So he sits down. 2 strikeouts for Langston. He only had 3 the other night when he went to 7 with the no hits. And that'll bring up Walt Three Blind Weiss, the shortstop of the Oakland A's. But before we see what he does against Langston, let's go back to John Saunders in Bristol.
Well, Chris, the Twins and the Mariners, Alan Anderson in a tie game, 1-1 in the second. Darnell Coles lifts this one. Gladden gives it a look, but it's gone. A 2-run home run. Seattle leads it 3-1. Back to Chris and Tommy.
All right, John, thank you. The first pitch to Weiss is down low for a ball, a slow, tantalizing curve. Walt Weiss hurt a lot last year. Hit 233, the third straight Rookie of the Year for the A's, 86.
Yeah, 3 out of their 4 infielders are all former Rookie of the Years.
Ground ball to Howell. He's been a busy man. Throw a little wide, but Joyner gathers it in, and the A's are out on the top of the second. No score. We'll be back.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Subaru. We built our reputation by building a better car. By Bud Light, everything else is just a light. By your local independent ERA real estate specialist. And by Armor All, because only Armor All works like Armor All.
We're back at Anaheim in the bottom of the second inning. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton. Glad you could join us for Mark Langston against this man, Mike Moore. And if you think you're hearing bells in the background, you're not up too late. It's rally bell night here in Anaheim. And the fans are shaking them just to see if they can get a rally going or maybe a cattle stampede from the outfield, one of the two. Dante Bichette. You would think between Dante Bichette and Marcel Lachman, they'd be playing hockey. Both of them on the Lachman, the pitching coach, Bichette, the left fielder for the California Angels, who sends one deep, but foul.
We talked a little bit about Bichette last inning. His manager, Doug Rader, said the way he's going, he has a chance to be a 30-30 man, but he meant 30 home runs and 30 assists, as he has 5 assists already. But he's a youngster out of Florida.
West Palm Beach. He's one of your neighbors.
Palm Beach Junior College, and said he was last year he was just unsettled here, didn't have a good feeling. He feels much better in his second year in the major leagues.
2-1 count now to Dante Bichette. Mike Moore, 19-game winner of a year ago, working quickly. Bottom of the second, ground ball, snared nicely by Lansford. Play over to McGuire, stays on the base in time, and there's one down. Now let's go back to our Baseball Tonight studio with John Saunders.
Well, Chris, Alan Anderson of the Twins already down 3-1. It could have been worse. Valley at the plate, yanks this one to the short. Greg Gagne, great diving stop. Hits Newman, over to Ken Hrbek, double play. Let's get back to Chris and Tommy at the Big A.
Nice play by Greg Gagne with a spoon, who just turned a beautiful double play up the coast. And with one down, a tantalizing slow pitch to Claudell Washington, who before the game was talking with us and Reggie Jackson, and I realized that Claudell at the age of 19 came up with the 1974 Oakland A's and played a vital role the last 3 months of the season, and that team winning their 3rd straight World Championship. Claudell, one of those guys who's played in all 4 divisions. He's played for Oakland, then went to Texas, played with the White Sox, the Mets, Atlanta, the Yankees, and now with California. 19 years old, coming up and playing with the Oakland A's, turned 20 before they played the World Series, and it's his 17th year. That's his only World Series ring. You figure it's going to happen every year. Nice pitch.
So far, he hasn't seen what he had hoped to from Mike Moore. Moore has thrown him a lot of off-speed pitches. Claudell, one of the original Charlie Finley guys.
Yes. Signed him off the Sandlots in Berkeley. And he skies this one to left field. Henderson coming in, but Weiss going out on the outfield grass. Makes the play. And there's 2 down.
Claudell Washington really adds a lot to a ball club, not only because of what he can do on the field, but he's a good, solid guy in the clubhouse, and that wasn't always the case early in his career. But as he has matured and grown older, he's a good man around the clubhouse.
You know, here's Lance Parrish talking about a good man around the clubhouse and on the field.
You bet.
Claudell, I mean, when you win a World Championship at that age, I mean, what's to worry about that stuff? And you learn that it's not that easy all the time. Lance Parrish, Those kids that came up with Detroit together, Parrish, Whitaker, Trammell, and young Jack Morris and Petrie. Looked like that team would be together for a long, long time. And they won that title in '84. And Lance has found out it's not easy to duplicate.
You mentioned the World Championships in the Oakland Athletics. Notice some of the Athletics, and it's not hard to not see their rings as they walk around the hotel lobbies, those World Championship rings.
Nice
and
ones.
they sport them very proudly, I might add.
They should.
Yes.
Swung on a miss by Parrish. I don't want to say that wherever they go, they're so powerful that earthquakes hit, but there was a couple of tremors out here today, and people at the park said the A's are in town. It follows them around. Nothing major now, nothing to get excited about. Most people didn't even realize it. 3-point something on the Richter scale. And there's a shot past Weiss for the Angels' first base hit. So Parrish with a sharp single to the left with 2 down in the bottom of the second. And that'll bring up Jack Howell.
Looked like that time Mike Moore tried to sneak a fastball by Lance Parrish. He had given him an assortment of breaking pitches, but when you're a good fastball hitter, which is what Lance Parrish is, it's hard to sneak that fast one by, especially when it's in that location.
This is Jack Howell, who had 20 home runs last year, which, as far as third basemen go, ranked him 3rd in the major leagues. Hojo with 36, Bobby Bonilla, now an outfielder, with 24. He had more than Gaetti, had more than Matt Williams. Of course, Matt, if you combine what he did at Phoenix and at the Giants last year, he had in the 40s. But Jack Howell can slug him out. This one he grounds past first base coach Bobby Knopf, a fixture here with California. The great double play combination with him and Jim Bella Fergosi at shortstop. And he's been a coach here with the Angels for quite some time.
That's your all old-timers list.
Well, when he was a manager, Dave LaPointe gave me that name on a telecast. So I figured I'd go with it. Ball is down low, blocked by Steinbach. One thing about Jack Howell, of course, didn't open the season, had a sprained ankle, so he could not play opening day. Not only was he up there in home runs among third basemen, surprisingly, we've seen him have trouble at third tonight, but he led the AL in fielding at third base last year, 974. His batting average last year, though, was a career low at 228. Ground ball, nice play by Gallego to McGuire in time, and the Angels get a base hit, but they're out in the bottom of the second. We've played 2 at the Big A. No score. Top of the third here in Anaheim. The A's and the California Angels, no score. And if you like this West Coast game, you'll really like our Sunday night game. It's West Coast NL style. The Giants at the Padres, and that'll be live with John Miller, Joe Morgan at 8 o'clock Eastern time. You think the Giants want to forget what happened to them this weekend against the Pods? I know so.
Little revenge on their mind as they go to Jack Murphy Stadium in San Diego.
4 games down there. They also play Monday night, so it'll be a big one down there. Defending champs and the team that thinks they can get there this year. Defending National League champs are, of course, the defending world champs, the Oakland A's, and Mike Lego Gallego leads off, the second baseman hitting in the number 9 slot. Gallego in an important role last year, played shortstop very well when Weiss went down with an injury for much of the year. 59 games to be exact. Gallego played at short. Weiss missed in the 60s at games. And Mark Langston, who has given up the hit to Lansford in the first, hit to Steinbach in the second to show that he's human. Slow, tantalizing pitch to Gallego.
I mentioned on our opening that Langston is always very particular about the mound that he pitches on. And when he was with the Montreal Expos, they used to fix the mound up just to his liking every time he started a game.
Membership has its privileges.
Speaking of privileges, if you notice as Langston pitches, his number 12 that he wears, as we see this pitch once again, the good curveball. Doug Rader, his manager, wore that number last year. But I guess when you sign for the large contract, a hefty contract, you can take the number that you choose.
You have it written in there. Got to get everything written in. There's the mound. And it's not the view that Gallego got. He got a better one of the ball, but he grounds to short, and Anderson over to Joyner in time. One down here in the top of the first. Let's go to John Saunders.
Well, Chris, at Shea Stadium, the Mets and the Cubs, bottom of the 10th. Bases are loaded. Mitch Williams facing the big gun, Darryl Strawberry. Gets him swinging to get out of the inning, and it's now moved to the 11th inning. Still tied at 5. Tomorrow night here on ESPN, 7:30. And you will see this game in Chicago, the Mets and the Cubs. That's if they're done. Let's get back to Anaheim.
All right, John, thank you. No score here. One down in the top of the third. It's our Tuesday night wild thing here with Chris Berman and Tommy Hutton. As Ricky Henderson steps up, walked, advanced to second base on Lansford's single, and was picked off second base at the top of the first by Mark Langston. 1-1 to Ricky.
So much is talked about Ricky Henderson, his offensive capabilities, the stolen base, the leadoff home runs. You forget the many times he's able to eyeball up there, as demonstrated by that 1,000th career walk last time up. He's a tough hitter to pitch to because of the crouch. He really makes a pitcher work when he's on the mound. Langston works this particular case, and again continues to have better success with his breaking ball early in this game.
Swung on and missed. Langston has 3 strikeouts, which is as many as he had on the opening day. Well, for him, his first start against Seattle when he didn't give up any hits. Here's the K against Ricky.
Now that's not the slow breaking ball. That's that sharp biter that goes down and into the right-hander. A tough pitch to hit.
And this will bring up with 2 down Carney Lansford, the first man in 1990 to get a base hit off Mark Langston. I'm all right. Mark Langston. Langston. Say that 3 times fast. Carney over 400 already this year. The first week of the season. Of course, the numbers the first few weeks are just up there for window dressing. This ball is not. This is back, gone. Home run for Lansford. And some rally bells here in California for some A's fans who got the free bells from the Angels but came to root for Oakland. The Bash brothers have hit another home run, and the A's lead it 1-0.
Well, one of the Bash brothers that you don't expect the long ball from. Lansford gets that high fastball, and again Langston has problems with the location on that pitch. Lansford came into this game a .325 average against Langston, and he's 2 for 2 tonight with the first run of the game.
Here's Jose Canseco. Curve ball for a strike. So Carney with the first hit and drives in the first run of the year off Mark Langston.
Lansford had just 2 home runs last year, so you don't expect him to go long ball that often, because many times he's up there with Henderson at first and he tries to take everything the other way. But he showed us he does have the power to do it once in a while.
And if you give up the long ball to Carney, you got Canseco and McGuire. He's really on it. Just a good player. That's all you can say about Carney. Here's a shot that almost took Langston's hat off, and Canseco smokes one to center field. So 4 base hits now in less than 3 innings here, given up by Langston. So Jose is DH, is now at first base, and here is Mark Eve of Destruction McGuire.
And so far, all the hits that Langston has allowed, except for the infield base hit by Steinbach, have been fastballs up in the strike zone. You hate to make that mistake to Jose Canseco, who gets all that power generated and sends it right past Langston's ear.
Mark McGuire, 117 home runs in his first 3 seasons in the majors. and you can kiss this one goodbye. It is gone. There's a Bash brother you expect to poke one out. McGuire destroying the baseball, and the A's have gone long ball twice here in the third. Mercy, to quote Roy Orbison. Mercy. Third home run of the year for McGuire. And as we said, he said that he had hit him for Bob Welch. He looked at me tonight and he said, "You're in the park. You're Bob Welch tonight. That means I have another homer." He wasn't lying. Watch the pitch.
Again, Langston with the fastball, but right down the middle. And when you throw fastballs, even if you have the speed of a Mark Langston, if you don't have location and you have hitters such as a Lansford, Canseco, and McGuire up there, you're going to get hurt. And McGuire that time, as you said, his third home run of the year, and there was never a doubt about it.
No, I didn't even have a chance to get the backs going on that one.
It was too far for back.
It was one back and it was gone. Mark McGuire loses it into the California night. And Dave Henderson, former teammate, neighbor of Mark Langston, so the A's are leaving notice that if you want to take this thing from it, you're going to have to do it by storm. Ground ball to Howell over to Joyner in time, but not until Lansford and McGuire lose them against Mark Langston. Through 2.5, Oakland 3, California nothing.
Back to Anaheim in a moment, but around the rest of the American League, the Battle of the Sox, Ozzie Guillen facing Lee Smith, 1-1 in the bottom of the ninth. He drives in Sammy Sosa, and the White Sox beat the Red Sox. 2-1 is the final. Elsewhere, Kansas City beats Cleveland. Kurt Stillwell with a 2-run triple there. Minnesota and Seattle, Kirby Puckett, Gary Gaetti have tied the game with RBI singles. The Cubs and the Mets. It's now in the bottom of the 11th. But the Cubs scored a run to go up 6-5. The Mets with one last chance. Let's get it back to Chris and Tommy.
Back at Anaheim, the Oakland A's have gone long ball. They lead it 3-0. And Ken Anderson, the number 9 batter, the shortstop, up for the first time against Mike Moore, who now gave up a 3-run homer in his first start this year in the first inning. Ken Urbeck had to pitch from behind. Now has the 3-run lead as he faces California in the third. 2 Hopper to Weiss. McGuire, 1 down. Go to the top of the order, and Devon White. Here's Walt Weiss.
One of those former rookies of the year that is in the Oakland infield, along with Carney Lansford and Martin McGuire.
Not to mention Canseco, rookie of the year in '86. Devon White. Fly to left his first at bat. Way in on the grass is Lansford, a third. See, now I've had the Langston and Lansford now, and I'm going to stumble on that all night long. Just what I need.
Didn't bother McGuire, though.
No. As Devo fouls that one off his foot.
Well, there are many ways to try to take speed away from a speedster. If you can get a slow breaking ball inside, have him foul one off that ankle, that's one of them.
That's not quite turf toe, is it?
Better to do that in California, though, than back east in April.
Yes. Mike Moore, Eakley, Oklahoma, went to school at Oral Roberts. Seattle for 7 years, losing in double figures every time but one of them. Wins 19 his first year with the Oakland A's, 19-11 last year. All-star, 2.61 ERA. Went at least 6 in 27 of his 35 starts, so that's what kind of consistency he gets for Tony La Russa. White with a weak chopper past Bobby Knopp. Well, it still can make the play.
He still has those hands. You know, you mentioned Oral Roberts University, and talking about Mike Moore. He said that was the last winning team he pitched for prior to coming to the Oakland Athletics.
The Titans.
There's number 1.
Bobby Knopp. A classic name. I mean, It went against everything you learned how to pronounce as a kid. K-N, Knight, you know, just the silent K. And no. The second baseman is Knop. Tried to tell it to my teachers in 4th and 5th grade. They said, no, you're not pronouncing it right. Swung on a miss by Devo, and so quickly 2 down here in the California 3rd. Brings up Johnny Ray. 3-0 Oakland. If you're just tuning in,
Here's that forkball of Mike Moore's. You see it just drop out of the strike zone. It started about knee high. As a hitter, if you can pick up the forkball rotation, if you see it starting knee high, you want to try to take it because it's going to drop out of the strike zone, but sometimes you can't see that rotation. That was always the case with Bruce Sutter. Every time you took one, he'd throw it right at the knees, a fastball.
right.
And just when you said, well, it's going to be fastball, and you have a swing at one that started at the knees, it was the forkball, the split.
When Sutter was really on, it was like you're up there with an axe in your hands, right?
And that's what really has turned things around for Mike Moore. Even though Wally Joyner was telling me that he thought Moore was the same type pitcher with Seattle. I don't know. I have to disagree. I think he's more of a pitcher now than a thrower.
This one is foul. The forkball and the splitter, they're similar, but they're slightly different pitches, aren't they?
Yeah, they sure are. There's a lot of times you talk about them in the same conversation. The split finger fastball is more of a fastball, and it has that type of speed. The forkball, you put it back further in the fingers, and it's more like a changeup, and it drops.
You
a little
split
bit
them
more.
even farther, don't you? Your
You
fingers
put it
to
back
throw
there
it.
far, and that's what Mike Moore throws.
And he throws it pretty well. He's ahead 3-0 here, bottom of the 3rd, none on, 2 out. Johnny Ray, 1-2 pitch to him. Time is called. Durwood Merrill working behind the plate tonight at the Big A. Long ball by Lansford and a 2-run homer by McGuire in the top of the 3rd, and Ray swings, tipped, fouled. He struck out, and Oakland leads at 3-0 at the end of 3. Top of the 4th at the Big A. The A's lead it 3-0 over the California Angels, and the A's have hit some big balls here. They've Mark McGuire just simply lost one about 400.
Yeah, so far Langston has thrown a lot of pitches, and as we've seen, he's had that fastball up in the strike zone. Doing that against Oakland, a ball club that hits the ball the way they do, he's going to continue to have trouble.
Terry Steinbach fouls one back.
The thing about Mark Langston, though, he's the type of pitcher over his career of a winning pitcher. Now, we've mentioned Mike Moore, a record well under 500 pitching for Seattle. Mark Langston, on the other hand, comes into this game tonight 87 and 76. So he won some ball games for that Mariner ball club, so he can turn it around. He's the type of pitcher that even though he allowed the 3 runs, 2 home runs in the 3rd inning, he can get it back in the other direction.
There's a big one there. The beach ball is on left field.
Mentioned the number of pitches that Langston has fired up there. 55, and the ones that have hurt him have been that high fastball.
Mark Langston not finding the sledding as easy as he did in his first start against his former team, the Seattle Mariners. Up top with Steinbach. Top of the 4th. We're glad you could join us here on ESPN as the fun continues in week 2. This one is popped to Johnny Ray at second base. Makes the play. 1 down in the Oakland 4th. Let's go a little bit east to John Saunders. Huh?
Well, Chris, in the top of the 11th, the Cubs take the lead over the Mets, but Mike Marshall, facing Paul Ossenmacher, lifts this one to center field. A solo home run that tied the game at 6-6. The Mets have 2 on now with 1 out, though. They're threatening. Let's get it back to Chris and Tommy in Anaheim.
So home runs on both coasts tonight. Mike Marshall putting that ball on vacation. Lance Blankenship is up, starting in right field tonight as Canseco was the DH. A's 3 runs on 5 hits. The Angels have just the 1 base hit by Parrish. 12 facing number 12 here. You've got a hunch.
the one thing about Tony La Russa that he does with his ball club, and number one, he does it because he's able to do it. He has such a versatile team, but he allows the players, the reserve players, to get in there on occasion. Gives them confidence. It gives them some chance to work on their swing, work on their play. And everybody says that playing for Tony La Russa is a treat because he makes your role feel important. What if he's thinking about Lou Piniella, boyhood friend? They played against each other in the out in Tampa. Lou Piniella, manager of the Cincinnati Reds, off to a 7-0 start now.
Not too shabby, even though they win again. Finally came home. 2-2 pitch to Blankenship. Strike 3 call. So 2 down for Langston.
This time Langston is able to get that off-speed pitch. Good location. And when you're Lance Blankenship, you don't play all that much. Seems like the pitchers make those perfect pitches. Yeah, it was a strike, Lance.
And this will bring up Walt Weiss. Grounded to third his first time up. Continuing a thought on Tony. He is one of only 5 lawyers / managers ever in Major League Baseball. The first 4 are in the Hall of Fame. I bet you didn't know that. And who are they, you might ask? Well, just in case you wanted to know, Branch Rickey was a lawyer and a manager. Monty Ward, Miller Huggins, longtime skipper of the Yankees, Huey Jennings. Lawyers and managers, they're in the Hall of Fame. Send lawyers guns and money. We'll let the rest of it go. It's still a family show. The rally bell's going on Rally Bell night as Langston tries to get the A's out 1, 2, 3 for the first time tonight.
Langston thought he had a called third strike on that fastball. He was halfway to the foul line. Even Lance Parrish, his catcher, had come out of the crouch thinking it was a called third strike, but the only one who didn't think so was Durwood Merrill. He's the only one who counts. Pretty close.
But he got that call, and Weiss can't believe it. He gets that call, so Langston gets the 1, 2, 3 inning. We'll be back in a moment. California dreaming with Berman and Hutton at the Big A in Anaheim. The A's lead the Angels 3-0 in the bottom of the 4th. And here's the last K against Walt Weiss.
Well, Langston had thought he struck Weiss out on the pitch prior to that. This time he snaps off the curveball. Weiss is called because he swung at the pitch for the strikeout.
Mike Moore facing Wally Joyner. Wally Joyner's first Major League base hit came off Mike Moore in Seattle. His first Major League home run came against Mark Langston the next game in Seattle. Funny how things always come together at times.
That's the thought that Wally Joyner is trying to put in his mind right now because he's in the midst of a 1 for 18.
Foul back.
Funny sometimes when you struggle and you find yourself in one of those 0-fers or 1 for 18s, you hope you see a pitcher that you've had success against. It just gives you that little extra confidence, and you can see that Joyner over the years has been a consistent hitter.
Came through in a big way in '86. Swung on and missed there. He and Jose Canseco each had 100+ RBIs that year. Wally had exactly 100. Only the third pair of rookies in 1 year to do it at the same time. Fred Lynn and Jim Rice did it in '75, and in 1953 of them. Walt Dropo, Al Rosen, and Luke Easter did it. Bet you didn't know that. I didn't either until I looked that one up today. Wally Joyner, well, I'll get the superlatives done in this at bat, I guess. After the next pitch, it's 2-2 if he stays up there. There's another one of those lists that I've got for you on Wally. Made himself an all-star his rookie year in '86. This one is up top for a ball. And Wally's only the 9th Major League player who ever started his career with 100 RBI seasons, the first 2 of them. Ted Williams, Joe DiMaggio in that list. So his first 2 years.
Pretty good company.
Yes, that's darn good company. Hasn't had the production in the RBI department last couple of years, but obviously capable of it. Inside, draws a walk.
You know, it's funny. You talk about being capable of it, but what Wally Joyner did was set a precedent that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who feel that he might not be that 30 home run, 110 RBI man. He might be the 20, 25 home run, 75, 85 RBI man. So if you can live with that, and if you don't expect that 30 and 120, you're going to be fine.
Chili Davis, who had 90 RBIs last year, steps up as the A's lead it 3-0 here in the bottom of the fourth. Angels with the lead man on, only their third base runner in the game. Chili grounded to McGuire at first the first time, up in the bottom of the first. Pitch outside for ball.
You don't expect Wally Joyner to be taking off anywhere. Chili Davis up there. Their ball club trails 3-0.
313 lifetime batter going into the game against Mike Moore. Chili can hit the long ball. 22 last year. Never quite did have as many homers as people thought that he would when he first came up with the Giants. 30 in the 35 range, but always in the 20s. Last year, he, with his home runs, helped the California Angels lead the American League in homers with 145. The A's were 127. Of course, the Angels way down in runs. So that's kind of a misleading stat at times because they led in home runs, but they were 12th in runs scored. They had 8 guys in double figures in home runs last year on this ball club. Misses for a ball, 2-0.
Yeah, the real misleading number in that graphic is the fact that the Chicago White Sox last year had 94 home runs, but had 24 more runs than the California Angels.
But it was not the A's that led the league in home runs. They just led the league in beating everybody else. And there's a shot going way back to right center field. Back, gone! Chili. So after we ridicule the importance of hitting all those home runs, Chili Davis reminds us that with a 2-run shot, he can get his ball club right back in the game. 3-2 in the bottom of the fourth as Davis, you know, at the beginning of the game, we said the wind was going out. We might see some. Yeah, we are.
The fork ball didn't get down as far as Mike Moore wanted, and he's probably not only shaking his head about that pitch to Chili Davis, but also concerned over the leadoff walk to Wally Joyner with a 3-0 lead because now it's a 1-run game.
A comebacker by Dante Bichette. And there is 1 out on 1 pitch. But now we've got a ball game. So you don't eat chili with a fork. That's what we learned tonight. Hey, it's late, folks. We're still on Connecticut time. What do you want from us? We're just having a good time. Hope you are too, along with our 50 states plus zones beyond on ESPN. A tantalizing curve against Cledell Washington. So now that Seattle Mariner alumni pitching duel is back together in a 3-2 game. As Cledell will sky one on the outfield grass. Weiss going back. Rickey is there. Both of them went for the ball, but Weiss making the play. And they're discussing, we got to get our signal straight here. We don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, Weiss is saying to Rickey that I had it all the way, but if Rickey Henderson can get to that ball, which he did in that case, and he probably will get the most of those with his speed. It's really the left fielder's ball because it's a much easier play, but Walt Weiss called it early and never really backed off. That could be trouble right there if those two collide.
Lance Parrish, who had the first base hit tonight off Mike Moore in the second inning with a sharp base hit to left field. We've seen 3 homers tonight, 2 of them of the 400-foot variety. McGuire's about 400, 405. Chili's estimated at about 420.
Seen a lot of games when the momentum shifts in this way, and Langston on the bench. A lot of times a pitcher can really pump his team up. He can tell the rest of the offense after that home run, hey, that's all they're getting. 3 runs. That's all Oakland is getting. Let's take a lead in this game.
A shot to third that Lansford gathers in. McGuire off the bag, has to tag Parrish, but he does so. And the Angels are out, but not until they pick up a 2 spot, courtesy of Chili Davis, 3-2 through 4. Long ball at the Big A. Lansford and McGuire hit him out in the 3rd for Oakland. Chili Davis, a 2-run shot in the bottom of the 4th for California. We're 3-2 with Oakland ahead in the top of the 5th. Mark Langston facing Mike Gallego, the number 9 hitter who grounded it short his first time up. So Langston has been touched for 3 runs and 5 hits tonight. 2 homers that we mentioned. The Angels playing long ball right back, and we've got a good one going. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton will be here with you every Tuesday night late. We plan to have some fun in this our special time slot.
So far you can see what Langston has been able to do after he allowed those 3 runs, the last coming on the 2-run shot by McGuire. He's retired 4 straight, the last 2 on strikeouts.
1-2 now to Gallego. 252 a year ago. There's 3 for 19, going to 3 for 20 thus far this season. See a lot more playing time now that Tony Phillips is gone. He's the second baseman.
Yeah, they were able to use Glenn Hubbard at that spot a little bit last year, but Phillips for the most part. Now Gallego is getting a good opportunity to play a lot.
Strike 3 back in the mid of Parrish. And Langston with another strikeout. And just in case you had forgotten, we want to remind you that this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball. It may not, we repeat, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. So there.
That last strikeout, 3 in a row now for Langston. He has 6 in the ball game.
Which is double the amount that he had in his first start with 3. But Langston, a guy that averages about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings throughout his career. Here's Ricky Henderson 0 for 1 with a walk, and Langston picked him off second base in the first inning. There's a strike, and Langston just looks like much more controlled pitcher. Last year, 235 strikeouts combined with Seattle and then Montreal. He's the 9th American League pitcher to win at least 3 strikeout titles. And he's only getting started. This is up top with some heat. In '84, we talked about the rookies, Canseco and Joyner with the RBIs. He and Dwight Gooden, as rookies, led their respective leagues in strikeout.
He was a great trivia question answer that year because so much attention was on Dwight Gooden of the Mets that many people had never heard of Mark Langston, who led the American League in strikeouts that year.
Well, here's a trivia question. Name the only other rookie pairs, well, name the rookie pairs that did that to lead their respective leagues in strikeout before Gooden and Langston did it in '84. You can't turn the book fast enough, can you? 1955, Herb Score of the Indians, Sad Sack Jones, Cubs. That goes back a ways. And it's not like either of them were done. Although Gooden's strikeout.
You're much older than I thought then.
Well, I was born in '55. I remember Herb Score vividly. A horrible comebacker in the mound that put short his career. Ricky Henderson, 2-2 pitch, 1 out, top of the 5th. Fouls back on the right side. 3-2 Oakland. On long balls accounting for all the runs.
Every time I see Ricky Henderson, I'm always reminded of talking to him and him mentioning who he really credits a lot in his career in baseball, and that's Milwaukee's manager, Tom Trebelhorn. Many years ago, Tom Trebelhorn was in the Oakland system as a minor league manager, and he managed Ricky in a couple of seasons. And Ricky really gives Tom Trebelhorn a lot of credit and really puts him right at the top of the list as people who helped him out in this game.
Some applause not for that man, and not necessarily for that man, but for Rene Latchman. Don't walk away, Rene Latchman, who threw the foul ball into the stands.
Looked like it was rap group night.
This one is fouled back off the mask of Parrish. So the brothers Latchman here, the third base coach of the A's, Rene, pitching coach of California Angels, Marcel, older brother Bill Latchman, managing in the minor leagues with the California Angels. So the name may sound French, and I talked with Rene before. Both of his parents were born in Switzerland, one in Geneva, the other now I'm going to forget, but it's another French-speaking part of Switzerland. But they were both born and raised in Southern California, if you're wondering their family tree.
That's right. At one time, Rene Latchman, as a youngster, was a bat boy for the Dodgers.
Yep. Manager, Brewers, Seattle. There's Ricky. Kind of epitomized the Oakland A's in the early 80s when they were go, go, go all the time and won the AL West under Billy Martin in that strike season. Loss of the Yankees in the playoffs. And Henderson hits one to left field. Dante Bichette has a long run. He's not going to get it. And it bounces in the crowd for a ground rule double, which Bichette had no shot at throwing Ricky out anyway, of course. So Henderson kind of reaches out and touches someone and gets a double.
He reaches out on this breaking ball. Not a bad pitch by Mark Langston, but Ricky, even though he was a little out front at first, didn't think the ball would stay fair. He was taking a peek all the way and then easily gets to second. Now he's at second base with one out. Even though he was picked off second back in the first inning, he's still going to try to get to third to give Carney Lansford a chance to bring him home with a fly ball.
Chad Anderson cheating in behind Henderson. You can see at the top of your screen.
As a runner at second, your job is to keep your eye on the second baseman. Now that's who was able to sneak in there, Johnny Ray, in the pickoff in the first inning. The third base coach has to help you with that shortstop because he's behind you. You can't see him.
Big hole there for Lansford to hit into, that's for sure. A lot of room down the line at third.
And again, a less experienced hitter would be bothered with Ricky dancing around at second base because you see that runner out there as a hitter. But Lansford can handle that.
Lansford, home run to left field, his last at bat, singled. Become the first man to get a base hit off Mark Langston this 1990 season. 1-0 pitch. Hit in that hole is short that Anderson backhands. Long throw to Joyner just in time. Henderson back to second base. Almost found the opening. Good play by Anderson.
Marvelous play by Ken Anderson, who's filling in for Dick Schofield. And Lansford, I think, thought he had a base hit. But Anderson gets there, now plants, and really gets something on the throw and is helped out by a nice stretch by Wally Joyner. But Dick Schofield, who spoils California Angel fans, making plays such as this all the time, is out with a hamstring pull. Ken Anderson filling in nicely.
When did Doug Rader tell you he'd be back?
Asked Doug Rader when Dick Schofield would be back, and he said the 12th. I said the 12th of what? He said the 12th of never.
Johnny Mathis. Here's Jose Canseco, who hits them into the 12th of never sometimes. And chances are he could hit a home run again. He hasn't homered tonight, but the guys surrounding him in the lineup, Lansford hitting number 2, McGuire hitting number 4 has. Canseco with a shot that almost took off Langford's halfway. I'm really struggling with that.
All we need in the game tonight is former Oakland right-hander Rick Langford.
Oh, please.
And you'd be in serious trouble.
Mark, the pitcher tonight. I'll do it by first
totally,
names.
I have you totally gone now.
Boy. 2 out, Henderson at second base. That's like when we did our preseason game from Ed Smith Stadium. Al Lopez we met before the game, and I knew I would confuse the name of the stadium immediately. Mark
I've
Langston
talked about this situation before with especially Henderson at second, 2 out. You have Jose Canseco, the hitter. I'll be surprised if Ricky goes, but I have seen him take off in these cases. But I think all it does is bother the hitter.
Pitches up top. Good thing the game's not being played at Al Lang Field. Ricky Henderson, the ground rule double, on second base with 2 out. 3-0 count to Canseco. Top of the 5th. Yeah, we better identify ourselves soon. Who else could put forth such madness. 3-2 Oakland, top of the 5th, and there's a strike call to Canseco. Well, it is after midnight, and that's when we let it all hang out, as you know. There's Doug Rader.
Marcel Latchman with the jacket on.
Canseco rifled the shot off right up past the pitcher, and then was aboard when McGuire hit a home run in the 3rd. Swung on and missed.
Well, if you've ever heard the term unbutton your shirt and have a good cut, that's just what Jose Canseco did on this Langston fastball. Good hard cut. May have taken his head off that pitch a little bit.
Full count with 2 down. Ricky will be rolling from second. Rally bells ringing here on Rally Bell night. Well, Ricky doesn't roll. Canseco rolls one to left. Going back. It is off the base of the wall. Bichette quickly up with the ball, fires into second base to hold Canseco at first, but Henderson scores, and the A's lead 4-2. That one dove at the end. I thought it would find the barrier right on the short wall there before you get to the bullpen, but Canseco with the RBI gives the A's a 2-run cushion.
Canseco may have thought that ball was going. Ricky Henderson did think it was going out and almost pulled off a base running mistake. He slowed up. He almost came to a stop when he got to third base, saw the ball hit that left field wall, and then turned it on. If Canseco takes off and tries to go to second and is tagged out before Ricky scores, run doesn't count.
So the single by Canseco puts him in exactly the place that he was when Mark Eve of Destruction McGuire lost one over the left field fence in his last at bat. 3 homers this year now for McGuire. Jose, the DH tonight, scurries back into first. The much fabled 40-40 season. A couple years ago, the 42 home runs and 40 stolen bases. The only man ever in Major League Baseball to do that. And here's Mark McGuire. And that's outside, 1-1.
We also saw an example during that Canseco at bat as to the importance of people that are hitting around you in a lineup. First base was open with Ricky Henderson at second, and Langston working to Canseco, but Mark McGuire was on deck. So you have to go after him because there's McGuire on deck, a guy that hit a shot off of him in the 3rd inning.
And there's a beach ball, but it's the Moon Man, Greg Minton, warming up in the Angels bullpen. So with 2 down, the A's have scored 1. The long single by Canseco. The check swing by McGuire. It's on the outfield grass. That's how powerful he is. Heaven forbid he swung at the ball, but the A's are out. Not until they pick up a run to lead it 4-2. Bottom of the 5th at Anaheim. The A's behind Mike Moore. Long ball. Lansford. Mark McGuire, RBI single by Canseco in the top half of this inning. Lead the California Angels 4-2. Mark Langston serving up the long balls, watching his teammate Chili Davis give him a 2-run homer to get them on the board. And Jack Howell leads off here in the bottom of the 5th inning against Mike Moore. He grounded to second back in the 2nd inning. This pitch is up top. You know, when you look through the Seattle Mariner pitching records, and admittedly they haven't been around that long, Langston and Moore go 1-2 in wins. Innings pitched, Moore is 1, Langston is 2. Strikeouts, Langston 1, Moore 2. This one is popped behind the dugout, although Lansford and Steinbach give it chase. And anything that happens in baseball, if you haven't seen this yet, where have you been? Baseball tonight, every night. Scores and highlights, team features, all the news, all the views every night. Special hour edition on Sunday at 7 o'clock, 11 o'clock Eastern time. If there's no ball game, of course, John Saunders in and out with us tonight. So if you want to know what's going on in baseball, this is the place. ESPN. It's the dawning of the age of Aquarius for baseball on TV.
My question to you, though, does John Saunders have a little fold-out cot right behind that desk? He's there all the time. What a job. He's done a great job.
You're kidding? He's I'm a rumor now at ESPN. John is on all the time. I got to talk to my boss, Mr. Slate, about that. 2-2 pitch to Jack Howell, leading off the bottom of the 5th. We told you Moore and Langston pretty much in the book all over the place to lead the Mariners, the team record, 9 total shutouts. I know these numbers aren't that impressive, and again, the Mariners haven't been around that long. And Howell slugs one to center field. Dave Henderson is going back, but makes the play. So 1 out now here in the bottom of the 5th. Let's go back now to the man who never sleeps, John Saunders.
And from Mike Cott, Chris, the Cubs and the Mets are trying to throw it away. Sandberg to Howard Johnson would have been the final out of the game or the inning. He throws the ball away. 2-run score for the Cubs. They take an 8-6 lead. It's now moved to the bottom of the 13th. Let's get it back to Chris and Tommy.
All right, John, thank you for that wake-up call from Shea Stadium. Here's a pitch to Ken Anderson. Made the nice play last inning in the hole. Lansford of a base hit. Some weak jingling of the rally bells here, but nevertheless, there is some jingling that you're hearing. It's not Santa coming in. Anderson grounded to short, lead off the 3rd inning. Moore is 2-1 now on the Angels shortstop.
And we were talking a little bit about the Angels and the way they played last year for Doug Rader, 91 wins. A lot of people forgot that they were leading in the division at the All-Star game.
Yes.
That last week really killed them. They lost 8 of their last 10 games.
Well, they were in first place on August 20th, tied with the A's. They went on a long road trip, and they kind of fell 4.5 behind. They never recovered as the A's hit their stride.
There's the Rooster, former member of the Astros, Padres, and Toronto Blue Jays as a player.
Pretty good player. There's Anderson with a ball to shallow center field that Henderson corrals. 11 years in the majors for Rader.
Hey, you talk about a hard-nosed player.
Yeah.
Doug Rader.
And 5 gold gloves, 5 straight gold gloves at 3rd. From 1970 to 1974, had a 25 homer season, had 20 or more homers 3 times, had 83 or more RBIs 4 times. He was a good player, pretty funny in Jim Bouton's book too, Ball 4. Some interesting reading there. Devon White, leadoff batter, 0 for 2. Fly to left, struck out. 2 outings against Mike Moore. Debo, as they call him.
I know you appreciate Devon White and Chili Davis in the same lineup, part of the Kingston duo. Both born in Kingston, Jamaica.
No need for either of them to hang down their heads. Devon White having trouble getting out of the chutes this year. 5 for 30. Below the dreaded Mendoza line, which of course George Brett called the 200 line in honor of Mario Mendoza, who never seemed to get above it when he played. 1-1 to Devon White. 2 out, none on. Bottom of the 5th. Oakland 4, California 2. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton. Tuesday night late. Next week we'll be in San Diego for the Cubs and the Padres. That'll be next Tuesday night's late game.
Mike Moore tonight so far has been able to mix things up. We've seen Langston struggle a little bit with his fastball, getting it up in the strike zone. Moore, on the other hand, has utilized that forkball very well in his outing so far, allowing just the 2 base hits by the Angels, even though one of those a 2-run home run.
Just Parrish and Davis with the home run, the only 2 to reach Moore for a base hit.
And that's one of the problems with the forkball or the split finger pitch. The pitch that Chili Davis hit for the home run, the forkball that didn't go down. It kind of hung right in the strike zone. And when that pitch hangs, it's very hittable. And the power hitters like to jump on it if it's up in the strike zone.
Well, that's what, 10 miles an hour off your fastball? That pitch was not that hittable.
That
Swung
was
on
a
and
good
missed
one.
for strike 3. There's your fork ball. And the Angels are out through 5. 4-2, Oakland. When Oakland player homered more than once against the Angels, the Lakers clinched the Oakland 4, California 2 in the top of the 6th inning. And as the A's step up against Mark Langston, a reminder that tomorrow night, baseball on ESPN live from Shea Stadium at 7:30 Eastern Time. The Cubs and the Mets, if they ever finish tonight, they'll be going back at it tomorrow night. Some of you will see Baltimore and Toronto. This game will be seen in the Chicago area. So, hold off Rush Street for just a little while and join us for the Cubs and the Mets. And we're glad you could join us tonight here on ESPN. Dave Henderson, Hendu, leading off the top of the 6th. And the Cubs, they've finished up finally at Shea. So as they shower, Cubs won at 8-6. They know that they're back on national TV tomorrow night.
Say the Cubs and the Mets have had quite a travel schedule. The Mets went into Chicago, played a game on 4 or 5 hours sleep. They arrived 3 or 4 in the morning in Chicago for a day game.
Right.
Beat the Cubs 10-1, then had to bounce back and play in Shea, end up going extra innings. They've been busy.
Not sure what time zone they're in when you play games like that. Day game, night game, different countries. They're in Montreal Sunday night. Kind of like the voices you hear on this Tuesday night telecast at times. Dave Henderson, 2 ground balls to third. 3-0 pitch to him, and there's a strike from Langston. Mark Langston, Carney Lansford, Rick Langford. What did you say? Rod Langway, hockey. My gracious, it gets worse. Pitch is inside, and Hendu with the leadoff walk to start the 6th. A's lead it on a solo homer by Lansford, a 2-run shot by McGuire, a base hit. Last inning of the 5th by Canseco. The Angels runs coming on a 2-run homer by Chili Davis. So Dave Henderson aboard. Terry Steinbach 1 for 2 with a single in the 2nd. Pop up to second base his last time up. And no matter what the Henderson, Langston's going to watch him at first base.
That's right. So many times you think of Lansford and Ricky working on a hit and run or some movement, but with a left-hander as Langston with a good move, Terry Steinbach, another hitter that Tony La Russa will utilize the hit and run occasionally.
Steinbach at 286 on this young season. A's and Angels play here tonight, tomorrow night as well. And the Angels go to Minnesota to start their first road trip of the season, a 2-week road trip. A's go home to face the Mariners. And these 2 teams, that was to be the opening 3 games of the season in Oakland, come down to the last Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of the year. And if the race goes that far, they will decide it head-to-head. The throw gets by Joyner, goes down under the tarp, and Henderson will have to hold there as it goes inside the tarp. So that time, now he will get third, yes, because the ball went out of play. But the umpire signaled him to stop, which I didn't understand. I thought it was 2 bases, and obviously that's what it is. So the error by Langston, he picked Henderson off Ricky, but didn't do that nearly with Dave.
Yeah, we've talked about the different moves that Langston has over to first base. That was that quick snap throw, which usually he is pretty good at doing. That time he throws it away. Wally just goes over and tries to find it there, and it's an error on the pitcher. Henderson gets second base. It's a 1-and-1 situation. Then he's allowed to go over to third because of where the ball went.
Well, that changes everything because just a fly ball from either of the next 2 batters will get him home. Steinbach hits one in the air, foul behind first base. Wally over by that tarp again.
Yeah, the other thing it really changes with Steinbach up there, and as you mentioned, the next hitter with a chance, the infield has to come in.
Joyner spending more time near the tarp than Vince Coleman ever did. The last 2 plays. 1-on-1 pitch to Steinbach, all-star catcher last couple of years.
Steinbach still wears that interesting protection on the left side of his face from his helmet. Injury is sustained a couple of years ago in a freak accident.
Here's a weak ground ball. Runner stays at third. Howell Throws to Joyner in time. So that's hardly the fly ball that LaRussa and the A's were looking for. And with one down, that'll bring up Lance Blankenship.
Yeah, and the hope for Langston right here is that he has Lance Blankenship coming up, who he struck out twice. So he has a young, inexperienced hitter in a situation with the infield still in. And don't rule out a squeeze with LaRussa back there.
Should I try it on Blankenship? Should I try it? Lance, oh darn, you've sunk my Blankenship. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Infield pinching way in. Possible squeeze situation. Angels would like to stay within 2 runs here. The way Moore has been throwing, giving up only 2 hits through 5. One-0 pitch to Blankenship. Squares to bunt. The squeeze is on. It worked perfectly. Blankenship is out. The A's lead at 5-2. Nice play.
Well, fortunately, we were able to call this one because if you know Tony LaRussa, you look at situations, and I'm sure Doug Rader knows this too. Not an easy pitch for Blankenship to drop down. He's able to do the job. Lance Parrish makes the play, but scoring easily from third base is Dave Henderson. So the A's, they have the Bash brothers. They have fine pitching. They play good defense, but they also play fundamentally sound baseball, and they'll drop down a squeeze every now and then.
There's really nothing you're going to do about that play at all. Except make sure you get the 1 out.
Or hope you guess right if you're Doug Rader, maybe to try to pitch out. But it worked to a T that time for the Oakland A's.
So the A's get that run without the courtesy of a base hit. 5-2, broken bat by Weiss, Howell, Joyner in time. But the A's pick up an insurance run. We've played 5.5. They lead it here at the Big A, 5-2. They've gone long ball, and this time they did it with the short ball.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by Mitsubishi, bringing you a full line of award-winning automobiles. See them all at your Mitsubishi Motors dealer. By Budweiser, Beechwood Age for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By BF Goodrich TA Tires, the athletic shoes for your car. And by Turtle Wax, brings back the shine.
Bottom of the 6th inning at Anaheim. Mike Moore has allowed the Angels just 2 hits. Johnny Ray steps up. The number 2 batter walked, struck out thus far tonight. Mike Moore, the only losing pitcher thus far this year for the Oakland A's. The Twins beat them in the 3rd game of the 3-game set. He gave up a 1st inning home run to Kent Hrbek. That was it, but the A's were shut out that game 3-0. He's the only guy to lose a game thus far, but two pitchers like this, I think he will take his chances, and Tony knows that very well.
Yeah, Tony LaRussa will take his chances on a performance such as this every time out for Mike Moore.
Ray with a ground ball that Lansford backhands. Long throw, 1 hop, safe. So the Angels have a base runner on a shot down 3rd by Johnny Ray. Kearney made a pretty good play on the ball, not expecting it to go down that way.
Yeah, he did. Once he got to it, this is an example. If you're playing on AstroTurf, he can skip it off the turf and maybe beat the runner with the throw. But Kearney, as he makes this play, hard shot by Johnny Ray. Kearney's able to get to it. Now watch the throw. He knows he can't get it all the way there in the air, and he short hops. A 1-hopper. The grass slows it up a little bit. If it's on turf, maybe he has a chance.
Of course, if it's on turf, maybe buy him for a double.
Might be buying 2. You're right.
Wally Joyner sends one over the head of Henderson. Back he goes. Oh, he makes the catch. And Ray is back to first. Joyner hit one on the screw, but Hendu, as he can do, ran it down in left center field and turned and fired to make sure Ray didn't go anywhere.
Well, the only way you're going to make a play such as this is to get a good jump, and Dave Henderson was off and going He knows where he is. He keeps looking back. Knows exactly where that wall is. Has some padding, so he can brace himself. Good concentration by Dave Henderson to make that catch.
And here is La Russa to the mound. And maybe he's, I don't know if he's made the call. Maybe he's giving Hendu a little time more than anything else.
Of course, then it was Dave Henderson who dazzled the California Angels when he was with the Red Sox with some catches.
He's made the call. Moore is gone. And Todd Burns, the lefty, will come in. So Mike Moore, after giving up only 3 hits, but the long ball there to Joyner that Hendu kept in there, maybe he's just thrown enough pitches. Moore is out. Todd Burns is coming in. And while we wait, let's go back now to John Saunders at Baseball Tonight.
Well, Chris and Tommy, the Dodgers and the Giants, Ramon Martinez on to face Brett Butler. He bounces this one. The run comes in to score. Leach decides like he might go for third. He is picked off, but the Giants took the lead 4-3. It's now 4-3 in the 5th, and it's a final now. The Cubs and the Mets. The Mets lose it in 13. Howard Johnson with the error in the top of the 13th allowed 2 runs to score, and the Cubs win it 8-6. We will have that game for you here tomorrow on ESPN from Shea Stadium at 7:30 Eastern Time. The Cubs and the Mets. Some will see Baltimore, Toronto.
All right, John, thank you. I made a mistake. I didn't mean to say that Burns was a lefty. I was thinking of Britt Burns. This is Todd Burns, right-handed reliever, coming on after Mike Moore went 5 1/3, giving up the 3 hits, 2 runs, maybe 3 if Ray comes around to score. And so Todd Burns, who we saw some in our game last Tuesday night, to see his ERA from last year, one of the many guys, many options that La Russa has out of his bullpen.
Yeah, and I think that's why, even though maybe we're both a little surprised to see Tony go out and take Mike Moore out of the game, a lot goes on in the dugout between innings. And Mike Moore talking with Tony La Russa, talking with Dave Duncan, his pitching coach. They know how he feels. Tony La Russa also knows that he has Todd Burns, he has Rick Honeycutt, he has Gene Nelson. He can set all those guys up for Dennis Eckersley. He has a very solid staff. So some managers may not make that move with a Mike Moore on the mound, but when you have the artillery that La Russa has, it's an easy one for him. That's the way he did things last year.
Well, nobody's complaining about the way Tony La Russa handles the pitching staff. Their ERA combined last year, 3.09, the best non-strike since ERA since Oakland in 1974. Now with Chili Davis coming up, this is what it looked like the last time in the 4th inning as Moore got a fork ball that didn't totally fork.
Yeah, it went down, but not sharply. And Chili was all over it.
So Todd Burns on now to face Chili Davis. 121 saves the last 2 years combined for the Oakland bullpen. Burns only with 8 last year. The main man, of course, the Yak. Burns, a big reason why they don't have to bring the Yak in till 2 out in the 8th or maybe just the 9th for him to get all those saves. He doesn't bring him on like in the old days. Used to have the 1 fireball or bring him in with 1 out in the 7th, let him go. That's not the way Tony manages this bullpen.
That's right. I was reading an article about relief pitchers over the last 5-6 years. For the closers, the number of innings pitched has gone down, almost an inning per appearance, as opposed to coming in, as you mentioned, going 2 or 3.
Yeah, but Burns comes on and throws 4 straight balls to Chili Davis, which brings the tying run to the plate in the person of Dante Bichette, who hit a 3-run homer here on Saturday night to beat the Twins after Minnesota taking a 5-4 lead. Very quickly, Dave Duncan out to the mound. His 3-run homer gave California his 7-5 win Saturday night. Extra innings.
We have talked about Marcel Latchman, the job he's done with the California pitching staff. Dave Duncan certainly falls into that category too with what he's done for La Russa and all the pitchers with the Oakland Athletics. Dave may have spotted something from Burns when he came into work. And when he sees something, he's not going to waste any time in this situation, in this particular game, to go out and tell him.
Dante Bichette from Florida. natural. You think he'd be I think that fans would take to him in Montreal? I would say so. The rally bells ringing. Johnny Ray at second, Chili Davis at first, and Burns misses with his 5th straight pitch. Bichette began his pro career as a third baseman. 6'3", 212, 26 years of age. Six straight balls from Todd Burns, who's now giving his manager heartburns. 5-2 Oakland, bottom of the 6th here in Anaheim. Johnny Ray, the runner at second base. Chili Davis, the runner at first base, with 1 out. Todd Burns, in relief of Mike Moore, has thrown 6 straight balls. Fouled back. Count is 2-1. Off the upper side here above us.
Some people would disagree with a young player having a swing at a 2-0 pitch after he's seen the relief pitcher come on and throw 6 straight balls. I don't always disagree with that. If you're an aggressive hitter, if you know you're going to get that fastball, if you have home run power, if you have a chance to tie it up with one swing, go ahead and rip.
Sure. That's inside. Did he go around? No, says John Shulock at first. And it's 3-1. So Burns is perhaps putting his club in a bit of a pickle. First of 13 meetings between the A's and Angels, and Bichette smokes one to center field. Back goes Henderson. It's gone. 3-run shot, and we're tied at 5. Dante's Inferno here at Anaheim, as Dante Bichette has just tied this thing at 5 apiece.
A pitcher who comes in and struggles has to stay with a fastball. Dante Bichette, a good fastball hitter. And there's a look at the type of power he has. He doesn't have to pull one to hit it out. He asked me before the game, is this ball game going to go back to Florida? You think they'll see it back there? They're watching in Florida right now.
3rd home run of the year for Bichette.
Not too often do you hit one to straightaway center field and you know it's gone. Dante knew it was gone over that 404 mark.
Excited young man. It's an exciting ball game. Glad you could join us here on ESPN. Chris Berman and Tommy Hutton watching the best in the West. The 5-1 A's and the 5-2 Angels knotting it up at 5. And you think the crowd was into it ringing those bells? Except for that guy with the A's jacket. He's saying something else. And we've seen some major league home runs tonight.
Estimated over 420 feet, that shot by Dante Bichette.
You know, you can always second guess, but now Moore out, Burns in, and it's a tie game. Tony doesn't pull the wrong string too often. This one backfired.
Yeah, when you play 162 and you manage 162, they're all not going to work the way you like. There's some debris out in right center field. That's why we have a little pause in the action here, but there certainly has been some action tonight, the way this thing has gone.
We're seeing if something is dangerous out there. I think that's the holdup. And it's 5-5 here in the bottom of the 6th inning, as this game is prolonged. And speaking of prolonged, 6.5 hours live this Sunday, the 1990 NFL Draft. We'll have a cast of thousands on hand in New York. Live at noon Eastern time. Paul Tagliabue's first draft, presiding over his commissioner. This should be a very interesting one with all the juniors coming out this year. Perhaps Jeff George, #1. We'll wait to see what Atlanta does. a host of running backs, could be 6 or 7 of them in the first round. Can you tell I'm boning up for this, Tommy? Yes. A couple of wide receivers, a lot of outside linebackers, and trying to make sure that the fans, normally a little better behaved out here on this coast.
Usually a little more laid back.
Yes.
Here in Southern
Throwing,
California.
Bottle, I don't think that was what was thrown.
That home run demonstrates the type of ball club the Angels had. You mentioned last year 8 players with 10 or more home runs. So they have a lot of players that can go deep. So you don't have to just zero in and concentrate on 1 or 2. It's just troublesome for a pitcher.
Bichette with only 3 last year now has 3, and we're only just past income tax day. Sorry to bring that up again.
We hope you filed.
Yes, we hope you did file it. Claudell Washington, 17 years a big leaguer. Burns starts him with a strike. 17 years, but again, a good 3-4 years left in him, you would think. "35 years of age, born Los Angeles, swings and misses as Burns had to get the 3-run homer out of his system before he settled down. Here's Lance Parrish, who, here's the pitch first.
This time Burns gets a pitch that tails away from Claudell. Claudell's a good fastball hitter. He likes the ball a little more inside to him, though.
Parrish with the first base hit of the night for the Angels back in the 2nd inning, then rounded at 3rd. 5-5, bottom of the 6th. Inside, 2-0. Over 1,500 games for Parrish, one-time bodyguard for Tina Turner. 3-0, 4th behind bench Yogi and Fisk in homers behind the plate. 7-time All-Star, 3 Gold Gloves, turned down a football scholarship at UCLA to play baseball. Made the right choice. Swings on 3-0 as you might think that he would get the green light and grounds it into the dugout. This ball is smoke foul. The bells ring. Lance Parrish, for whom the bells now toll, as the Angels have rallied for 3 on the cannonading blast by Dante Bichette. I mean, the French name, I have to use a Danny Gallivan hockey term for. This is a strike call. Parrish knew it, and the Angels are out, but not until they tied it at the end of 6. We're 5-5. In the top of the 7th inning, the A's and the Angels are knotted at 5, and that's going to be all for Mark Langston. The Moon Man, Greg Minton, who's already worked in 3 games this year. This is his 4th. Here you see what he's done thus far this year. 150 lifetime saves. Last year with California, 4-3, 2.20 ERA with 8 saves. So the Moon Man, longtime San Francisco Giant, and there's the guy that tied the game, Dante Bichette, with his 3-run launcher. So with the change from lefty to righty, Stan Javier will bat for Gallego in the number 9 slot. Will probably go to the outfield, and Blankenship will probably go to second base.
Again, a good example of the versatility of the players Tony La Russa has. Javier, a switch hitter, and also a good man in a leadoff role, has pretty good speed.
Greg Minton, sinker.
Minton has an outstanding sinker. That's why he earned so many saves back in the days with the San Francisco Giants. Saved 30 games one season for them.
That was in 1982, and his ERA was 1.83. Giants were in it to the last weekend of the season. Swung on and missed by Javier. That was the time the Dodgers eliminated the Giants on Saturday. Joe Morgan, ESPN's Joe Morgan, hitting the home run Sunday to knock the Dodgers out, and the Braves won the 82 pennant. Minton was great there in the early 80s. 21 saves in 81, 30 in 82, 22 in 83, 19 in 84. And a little different too, hence the name Moon Man. And this is the Moon Man has one skied. The shortstop Ken Anderson makes the play, and Stan Javier is out, and there's one down in the top of the 7th inning. We've told you about Wednesday's game, the Cubs and the Mets. Friday's doubleheader at 7:30 Eastern Time, Kansas City and Toronto. Two teams had a very intriguing AL playoffs a few years back. And then the late game, 10:30 Eastern Time, Houston at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Those games being seen in most areas for regional coverage. The Expos and the Mets. Seattle and Oakland will be the late regional games some of you will see. Brings up the top of the order and Ricky Henderson. Double, walk, and a strikeout tonight. Picked off second base in the first inning after he walked. Tough strike zone. We saw him walk for his 1,000th time, but the Moon Man finds that one, and we're 1-1. Pitch is fouled off the mask of umpire Durwood Merrill.
Greg Minton, one of the many relief pitchers. They feel comfortable when they come into a ball game working out of the stretch. So Minton working out of the stretch. Here's what happens when you're an umpire and you take one right off the mask. Hang in there, Durwood.
It's not easy back there, that's for darn sure. Let go by the Giants in 87, signed as a free agent in 87. He's really done some great work here in California. 5-4 with 10 saves in 87. In 88, an ERA of under 3. In 89, the ERA of 2.20. I've always enjoyed watching through the years. One-two pitch to Ricky. Hits it to second. Ray in time to Joyner, and there are two down in the Oakland 7th.
It was great seeing the reception that Dante Bichette received when he headed out to left field.
Yep.
Get this inning underway. What a good feeling it is for a player when you go out after you've hit a home run or made a big play.
He hit a home run tonight, Carney Lansford. A base hit off Langston, the first guy to get a hit off him, the first guy to drive in a run and score a run off Langston this year when he hit a homer in the third, grounded to short his last time up. Now we'll try for his first time against the Moon Man, Greg Minton. Ground ball to second, so the sinker ball working. Ray to Joyner in time. The A's are out in the 7th. 7th inning stretch time at the Big A. We are tied at 5.
4 home runs between the A's and the Angels, the game you were watching, but none quite like this one. Rob Murphy to Ron Kittle of the White Sox. 7th time in his career he's put one completely out over the roof of Comiskey Park. The White Sox end up winning the game. Elsewhere in the American League, you see that 2-1 score. Texas over Milwaukee 62. Sierra and Incaviglia with home runs. Cleveland will lose it to Kansas City. Minnesota and Seattle are all tied up. Back to Chris and Tommy.
All right, John, they're tied at 5 up at the Kingdome. We're tied at 5 here in Anaheim. Bottom of the 7th inning between the top two guns in the West, the A's and the Angels. Jack Howell ran it to second, fly to center. And as we had suspected in the top of the 7th, Stan Javier goes into right field for the A's. Lance Blankenship moves from right to second base. Gallego out of the game. And Howell sends one down the right field line, but it is foul.
Just in case you're interested in such numbers, if they carry over from year to year, last year the Angels were 52-29 at home as Oakland gets Rick Honeycutt loosening up. And they also led the American League in one-run victories. So that tells you they played tough in those close ball games.
Yes, sir.
And in the white uniform.
Todd Burns came on in relief of Mike Moore last inning. As the full count on Jack Howell will lead off the bottom of the seventh. Long ball the order of this night, each team with a pair of homers. Howell with a grounder, and immediately Blankenship to play at second base to McGuire, one down. Lance Blankenship, name that you will, name it so long they got to abbreviate it in the box scores. But a name that will be in there for quite a bit more this year. There's Javier in right field. Told you the changes. Ken Anderson, shortstop, 0 for 2 tonight. Hits it to the other shortstop, Walt Weiss. Lines it up perfectly, makes the play so quickly. 2 down in the Angels' 7th. That brings up the top of the order, Devon White, who was 0 for 3.
Walt Weiss, one of those shortstops that plays everything so smoothly, even though that line drive was hit on the nose by Anderson. Weiss just easily moved over and stabbed it.
So Devon White up below the Mendoza line for the first week of the season. The guy who really scorched it last year, the first half of the year.
Better to be on that Mendoza line in April than in September.
Well, nothing that 3 hits can't fix. You know, you can improve your average like 30, 40 points. September Mendoza lines don't bear too well, and there's LaRussa and Dave Duncan. You know that Mike Moore, giving up 3 homers in his 2 starts. And neither he nor Langston will figure in the decision tonight. Right now with Burns and Minton. Lansford way in on the grass at third. White swinging away and fouls it back. There's Carney, you can see.
This is what makes Devon White such a good player. Here he is, capable of hitting the ball out of the ballpark, a home run type hitter. He has home run power, but he also has the speed where they could possibly drop down a bunt. Now with 2 out, when you have a hitter that can hit a ball in a gap or maybe hit one out, Doug Rader would probably be a little disappointed if he saw Devon drop one down.
48 homers in his 3 full years with the Angels. There's a strike. 1 and 2. 2 down, bottom of the 7th, 5-5.
Lansford can move back now at third with 2 strikes.
Two pitch. Foul behind third base. Carney makes the play on his hat, and that's it for the Angels in the 7th. We're through 7, tied at 5. And we're tied here at Anaheim. Top of the 8th, 5-5. And in the Central Time Zone, it is now officially midnight at the Oasis. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton. Glad you could join us. It's been a good one between the best in the West, the A's and the Angels. And Jose Canseco leads off in the top of the 8th against Greg Minton, who worked a 1-2-3 7th in relief of Mark Langston. Canseco 2 for 3 tonight. Drove in the A's 5th run with a double in the 5th. Singleton scored on McGuire's homer back in the 3rd. In the 1st inning, he flew out to center field. One 1-0 for the Moon Man against Jose Canseco. See, Saunders gets the on-face studio airtime. We get the lower third there. Jose with a powerful swing and a miss.
I'm sure one of the reasons Doug Rader wanted to get Minton in this ball game He has that good sinker. We've talked about it. That ball dived down and inside to Jose. He gives up very few home runs. And when you're pitching against a team that hits a lot of home runs, the sinker ball is very effective.
This ball is hit to right field, and Claudell Washington goes back. Now, he got none of that ball, but yet brought Claudell almost back to the warning track for the out. Yeah, Minton went through that long, long streak of not giving up a homer when he was with the Giants.
Yeah, over 250 innings he went without allowing a home run. He was second in the American League last year for relief pitchers with over 90 innings of giving up the fewest amount of home runs. So it's rare, but it does happen, and this would be the team that could do it, the Oakland Athletics.
Mark McGwire, powerful two-run homer in the third off Langston. That gave the A's a 3-0 lead. The Whale couldn't do it, huh? Lost to the Bruins 3-1 in the 7th game. He loves hitting homers on the road, doesn't he?
Most of the Oakland hitters prefer hitting in all the other ballparks except the Oakland Coliseum.
Well, they don't mind it there.
No, they don't dislike it, but it's a tough ballpark, as,
Yes, it is.
as we talked about last week, being there. Tough ballpark to hit in. A lot of foul
No
territory.
question.
Ball doesn't carry that well.
Yeah, except when they hit it.
Yeah.
Think these guys like going into Fenway? Remember the first time Dave Kingman ever set foot in Fenway? It was just like, it's like playing in it's like hitting in a racquetball court. That's what it is with these guys, Canseco and McGwire. The Moon Man works them inside, 2-1. One out here, top of the 8th inning. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight. We've got a good one from Anaheim. It's even in the evening in Hawaii and Alaska now. First of 13 meetings between the A's and the Angels. And as we mentioned earlier, they will finish the season Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. That additional 3 games, additional 3 days added on to the season for the lockout. Those two will finish the season against each other in Oakland. Play another game tomorrow, Sanderson against McCaskill. Inside, 3-1.
Minton is missing those last 2 pitches, but not by much. He's going with the fastball. The one prior to that, just a little bit low. That time a little inside, but that's where he wants to pitch McGwire, and he's working well. He's just missing by a little, and McGwire's showing a lot of patience. McGwire wants to see that pitch out over the plate a little bit more.
They just missed with that one, and the A's have the potential go-ahead run on first base. McGwire trots down to first, bringing up Dave Henderson. And Doug Rader holds his breath just a little bit. Hendu can run pretty well, but you can double him up.
Talk about a pressure player. 7 postseason home runs Dave Henderson has hit.
Yep. Always in good shape. Talking to him this afternoon at the hotel, we were with Ron Hasse, who has lost 20, 25 pounds. And Henderson said, well, he hasn't tried the Hendu diet. I said, well, what's that? Beer and chips? Doesn't look like it. Of course, tonight.
That's not that one you're on, though.
No. Then the discussion turned to me, and I said, excuse me. We're working very hard at it. I'm sure everybody out there really cares. 5-5. Top of the 8th. Mark McGwire at first base with 1 down. Dave Henderson walked and scored last time up on the squeeze by Blankenship. Swings and misses this time. Grounded to third in his other 2 plate appearances tonight. Don't walk away. Rene Latchman with the signs at third.
He go back to that squeeze play. Oakland mastered a run with no base hits in that inning, and
Mark Eichhorn, who has pitched very well the first week of the season.
hey, talk about a turnaround in a career.
Yes. And the Moon Man misses down low. It's 2-1. Well, they get Eichhorn to help Frazier in setting up Harvey. This makes his team much, much better. He's pitched well.
You don't think about him too often, but another key to that bullpen is on the disabled list right now. Veteran left-hander Bob McClure.
Yes.
They need him out there.
For just a couple of outs.
Just for the left-handers. He can come in and get the left-handers out very easily.
And of course, Minton at 38 years of age, if he continues to do well, but he's not doing well there as Henderson's out ahead of it, but hits it foul to even the count at 2-2. So frustrating. Lean over, try and make the play. Tony with a little California wildlife hitting him there in the dugout. The Audubon Society on that thing.
Showed good reflexes, though, didn't he?
Yo, great reflexes. Never missed a stroke. You never know what can happen on Tuesday night.
Never missed a sign either to Latchman.
That's right. That was actually a call for a fly ball, I think.
You know, sometimes that's a decoy. I'll tell you what.
What, with the bugs in the dugout?
Believe it or not, the manager doesn't always relay the signs to the third base coach. It could be another coach sitting in the dugout. Could be someone else. Could be a decoy right there. But a good move nevertheless by LaRusse. Doug Rader stays to a more conventional hand clap.
Well, that gets the fly if it's in the way if he's clapping. Full count, McGuire on first with one out. Dave Henderson, the batter, hits one foul back to the right side.
Tony not taking any chances. Either that or McGuire missed a sign, and that might be the case because McGuire, the runner at first base, now just had a chat with his first base coach, Dave McKay. 3-2 with one out. McGuire wasn't running on that. Possibly missed the sign. Because I think Tony has enough confidence in Dave Henderson to send McGuire, even though McGuire doesn't have much speed. See if they get together on this pitch.
Here he goes. Hit to center field. Devon White, the proverbial can of corn. And there's two down in the Oakland 8th. Tomorrow night, baseball continues here on ESPN. Most of you will see the Cubs against the Mets at Shea Stadium at 7:30 Eastern time, including those of you in Chicago, we should add. Some of you will see Baltimore and Toronto. You'll see it, won't you, Tom?
I'll see that game.
Voice of the Blue Jays, you'll be there. You're leaving from Ontario and landing in Ontario.
How does he do it?
Well, if it stays tied at 5 for a few more innings, I'm not sure how you will do it. Ah, the old red eye. Henderson fouls it back to the left side. Excuse me, this is Steinbach up. My mistake. Henderson, of course, flying to center field. Terry Steinbach, 1 for 3, single in the second, popped to second, rounded to third tonight.
You know, Terry Steinbach was in an interesting situation a couple of years ago when he was on the All-Star team. Many people said, who's Terry Steinbach? Who's this guy, an All-Star catcher? But I think after a couple of years, the way he's played, being with a World Championship team, and he has proven himself to be an outstanding catcher in the American League.
Yeah, MVP of the game, hit a homer in his first at bat, and then they knew who he was. The game in Cincinnati.
He didn't waste any time.
No. Again in the All-Star game last year here at the Big A. This year's All-Star game at Wrigley. That should be some fun. Hot, sultry, July, Illinois night. Balls could be flying around that park. We've seen 4 of them go out tonight, a couple of them close. Ground ball to Howell, gathers it in. Joyner, and the A's are out in the top half of the 8th. We're going to the bottom of the 8th at the Big A. The A's and Angels tied at 5.
ESPN Baseball Tonight, brought to you by BF Goodrich TA Tires, the athletic shoes for your car. By Truck Guard from Shell. Finally, there's an oil that knows the difference. By Honda Power Equipment, makers of innovative and dependable lawn mowers, lawn tractors, and riding mowers. And by Thompson's Water Seal Exterior Stain, beauty that lasts at last.
Back in Anaheim, the A's and the Angels tied at 5 at the bottom of the 8th. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton And the A's have brought on their third pitcher of the night. They go lefty this time with Rick Honeycutt. Come in to face Johnny Ray, Wally Joyner, and Chili Davis. Honeycutt, one-time starter with Seattle in the team before Moore and Langston. He said when he got there, they traded for him in the beginning of their first season. What was that, 77? Diego Segui, and those guys were still starting there. So he's been around. Dodgers went along with Welch, right? Back up a couple of years ago in the big trade that sent Jay Howell, among others. Fettuccine Alfredo Griffin down to the LA Dodgers from Oakland.
A lot of people also forget the deal he was involved in. He's traded to the Dodgers for Dave Stewart. Also pitched for the Texas Rangers. So we have a night of the Mariner.
Night of the Mariner.
Here at the Big A with Langston and Moore starting. And as we told you, probably be a pitcher's duel.
No, we did say with wins, although it don't look like that much, but there might be some balls flying out.
But I'll say one thing. We've had a good ball game.
Yes.
Some long balls and some good defense and squeeze play.
And we've had two good games thus far in our Tuesday night trip around the West Coast.
The other reason La Russa makes this move is because he has a left-hander in Honeycutt. He'll work to Johnny Ray, a switch hitter. Joyner is up next,
right.
A left-handed hitter. Another switch hitter, Chili Davis, after that.
But Ray batted much better. He's a better left-handed hitter than a right-handed hitter, and Tony knows that.
You know Tony knows that.
Yeah, if we know that. Tony's had that one down for years. Ray will foul one back, out of play. Honeycutt with 12 saves last year, 2-2 record, 2.35 ERA. Ray with a base hit, came around to score on Bichette's monstrous 3-run blast in the 6th.
Honeycutt was a tremendous contributor last year. And
Mike Norris.
what a story that is right
Yes,
there,
sir.
warming up in the bullpen for Oakland. Former 20-game winner with the Oakland Athletics, a chronicle of drug problems, but he's on the comeback trail. And
What a warm welcome he got.
Tremendous the other night in Oakland.
Well, opening night, he got a huge ovation as long as just about anybody. As the count is 1-2 to Johnny Ray. Huge ovation. You know, when they introduced all the players, got a huge ovation. Then Wednesday when he pitched against the Twins in that game in relief of Mike Moore, just another huge ovation. He and Ricky really as good of players as they had on that 81 team. Norris, the ace of that staff. At any rate, Ray swings and misses, and strike 3. Honeycutt gets his first man. Before the next man up, let's go back to John Saunders.
Well, Chris and Tommy, Dodgers and the Giants, Hubie Brooks at the plate, off the end of the bat, back up the middle against Atlee Hammaker. Willie Randolph comes around to score, and the Dodgers retake the lead 5-4. Back to Chris and Tommy in Anaheim.
All right, the Giants bullpen having just all sorts of problems keeping things under control. Of course, that's a tie game, but they had the lead middle innings. Got the complete game out of Lacoste last night. Now they won one low-scoring game and lost those 3 to the Pods. Wally Joyner is up. Wally is 0 for 2 in a walk. 1 down, bottom of the 8th, 5-5. The Angels and the A's. Rick Honeycutt gets Joyner to swing and miss, 0-2.
The other thing about Honeycutt, to show you how the world champion Oakland Athletics filled in last year when Dennis Eckersley, their ace out of the pen, was out of action for about 40 ball games. Honeycutt came in, got most of those 10 saves during that time, and he was the closer for the Oakland A's during the time of Eckersley's absence.
And when the A's got him from Los Angeles in '87, he just couldn't get a win. He was 2-12. They went 1-4 the rest of the year with Oakland. People figured he was done. But then they moved him to the pen, and he wasn't done. He was on to a new career. Nice play by Honeycutt. To McGuire in time, and there's 2 down. Bring up Chili Davis. Chili, who homered off Mike Moore back in the 4th inning, has also walked and scored. And his first time up, he grounded to first. Chili, the switch hitter.
Chile also last year a lower batting average from the right side as opposed to hitting off the right-handers.
Chili Davis led the Angels both years he's been here. Last 2 years in RBI, but this time grounds it to Walt Weiss. In Tom McGuire, we've played 8. And the next team that scores wins. 5-5, go to the 9th. Heading to the 9th now at the Big A, the A's and the Angels tied at 5. We're glad you stayed up to enjoy this game. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton. You're surprised that the starters got rocked as they didn't get rocked, but they each gave up, we've seen 2 long balls for each team.
Well, the key, we saw Langston throw a lot of fastballs up in the strike zone. You do that against Oakland, we've talked about it, you're getting in trouble. We've got a few changes as we go to this 9th inning. Mark Eichhorn, another story. Yep. We mentioned Mike Norris. Eichhorn, a story in himself. He'll be starting things on the mound, and I think we're going to get a look at a pinch hitter. So both clubs with a lot of depth in the bullpen and off the bench.
It's Mariner night, we told you, with Langston and Moore starting, and it's only fitting that former Mariner Ken Good Evening Mr. Phelps steps to the plate against Mark Eichhorn. And for the second straight Tuesday, that's exactly how he greeted me in the batting cage. Good evening. He can certainly go deep.
Phelps pinch hitting for Lance Blankenship in this situation, and
Blankenship with a big RBI of about a 5-foot squeeze bunt as opposed to the 420-foot home runs that we've seen tonight. Mark Eichhorn with that tantalizing delivery.
Yeah, Eichhorn has really turned his career around. He had a couple of tremendous seasons for the Toronto Blue Jays and then got away, he says, from that fork ball. Got away from throwing it, but he's back using it now 60 to 70%.
So Eichhorn now the 3rd California pitcher. Greg Minton did a nice job when he was in there, didn't he? Phelps with a ground ball. The Joyner doesn't get. Ray does, but Eichhorn covering in time. Not potentially a disastrous play, but they make the play on Phelps. Now let's go back to our Baseball Tonight studio with John Saunders.
Well, Chris, the Dodgers and the Giants in the 7th. Former Angels pitcher Don Ossie facing Kevin Mitchell. High and outside, Mitchell goes with the pitch, takes it to the opposite field. It's gone for a home run. His 2nd of the year. It ties the game at 5-5 in the 8th. Back to Anaheim.
Hit that one over the Christy Mathewson sign at Candlestick. He didn't serve up many. 1 down now in the Oakland 9th. Walt Weiss, shortstop, 0 for 3. By the time he delivers the ball, he's like a yard on the outside of the rubber. I mean, the ball kind of takes the polar route to the plate if he throws a straight curve. And this one is punched past the drawn-in 3rd baseman Howell and past the diving Anderson, and Weiss does the job with a base hit in a 5-5 game in the top of the 9th.
Eichhorn, who more often than not wants to get that pitch down, not worried as much to Walt Weiss, but even if you're a slap hitter, you can do that to it. He found that hole on the left side.
Stan Javier, who pinch hit for Gallego and stayed in the game at right, popped short his 1 plate appearance. And a courtesy toss back by Eichhorn to hold Weiss on. Javier, 248 hitter a year ago. Three for 8 thus far.
All right, so far tonight we've seen the long ball, we saw the squeeze play, and again La Russa finds himself in a situation he has some players that can perform other things. Javier, decent bat control. Weiss has better than average speed. He's in a tie ball game in the 9th inning.
Howland on the grass at third. Ball 1 to Javier. To Julian Javier. Excellent player for the Cardinals. A couple of World Championship teams.
That's right, father and son each playing on a World Championship team.
That's not too bad. Gotta be a rarity.
Hey, Dad, you want to see my ring?
Sure, let me show you mine first. Walt Weiss, the go-ahead run at first base with one down in the top of the Oakland ninth. Short lead. Kind of quiet for a 5-5 game here. All the excitement a couple innings ago with Dante Bichette tied it up with a monstrous 3-run blast off Todd Burns.
That's because they used up all the clangers on the rally bells.
Oh no, they got some clanging left. Rene Latchman, third base coach, not bothered by the flies that La Russa was seeing in the dugout. Here's Tony, got a good can of Raid the last inning, I guess, and got rid of that stuff. 2-0, and there goes Weiss. Shot up the middle. Weiss is safe at second. Dug out by Joyner in first in time. Almost was unlucky for the A's because of the fielders going to the middle to make the play. If the ball had been hit a little sharper, it would have been a double play.
Yeah, with the shortstop Ken Anderson playing up the middle and then drifting toward the middle with the runner going, he was right there for that ground ball hit by Javier. And Weiss, seeing that and knowing what a shortstop can do, being one himself, had to really hustle with that head-first slide and get to the bag, which he did before Anderson could touch him. So now he's in scoring position for Rickey Henderson.
Yes, so here's Rickey Henderson, 1 for 3 on the night. Looking to do it not so much with his feet, but with the Ray, they need now to bring out to the plate. The moths are.
I think they're attracted by the batting gloves of Rickey Henderson, the fluorescent batting gloves.
Yeah. 5-5 game, top of the 9th. Walt Weiss, the runner with 2 out at second base. Mark Eichhorn delivers a strike call to Rickey Henderson. 561 RBIs coming into the season for Rick. Added to his 3 this year. Most he's ever had in a season. 74 back in '86 with the Yankees. He will take one here big time though. Foul back.
Hey, Rickey has really changed something here against Eichhorn. When you see his stance as Eichhorn gets ready to deliver the next pitch, Rickey very open. His front foot, the left foot, almost pointing toward third base as he gets ready for the pitch from Eichhorn.
5 runs, 8 hits, no errors for the A's. 5 runs, 4 hits, 1 error for the Angels. That one by Mark Langston, which cost them. A 2-base throwing error that allowed Dave Henderson to go from first to third. Later scored on a squeeze, make it 5-2. Dante Bichette, though, tied it up with a 3-run homer back in the 6th inning. And that's where we've stood. Henderson, did he go around? No, says first base umpire John Shulock. Pretty veteran umpiring crew. Merrill, 13th year behind the plate. Shulock, 11th year. Tim McClellan at second, his 8th year. Don Denkinger, 22nd year at third.
Rickey able to hold the swing.
He held that number.
You mentioned Dante Bichette. He leads off the bottom of the 9th, followed by Claudell Washington and Lance Parrish, all home run threats.
Henderson swings and misses at Eichhorn's delivery. The Angels going to the bottom of the 9th with a chance to win it. We're tied at 5. Y'all stick around, yeah?
At Candlestick Park, the Dodgers and the Giants, the game was all tied up at 5 when Mike Socha stepped in to face Atlee Hammaker, and he takes it out to right field to break the tie in a hurry. 6-5 for the Dodgers. His 3rd home run of the year last year. He didn't get his 3rd till June 4th. The Twins and the Mariners. Kent Hrbek off the end of the bat, loops this one out to left field. It also breaks a 5-5 tie. The Twins take a 6-5 lead in the top of the 9th inning. Let's get it back to Chris and Tommy where it is 5-5.
All right, John, will this 5-5 tie be broken? It was forged in the bottom of the 6th inning when Dante Bichette made it Dante's Inferno, launching this 3-run blast. His 3rd homer of the year off of Todd Burns. There was no question about that one, and that's where we've stood since that homer in the bottom of the 6th. And here's Bichette with a chance to win it with one swing of the bat. New folk hero as those rally bells have come back. Rally bell night here at the Big A. Strike call from Rick Honeycutt. Two of the teams expected to battle it all the way out in the AL West, doing battle tonight. The bat and ball go to short. Weiss in time as the bat was simply splintered, and even the handle went out about 20 feet.
Not an easy play for shortstop Walt Weiss.
Sir.
He saw the ball coming as Honeycutt literally jammed and sawed off the bat of Dante Bichette. Ran a breaking ball right off the hands, and Weiss saw the baseball coming and then also saw the barrel of the bat coming out toward him. Had to do a little hop, skip, and a jump to get away from the bat, and he made the play to retire Bichette.
We should mention that Mike Bordick is now in at 2nd base for the A's, and batting now for Claudell Washington, Rick Really Big Shoe. Kind of an interesting move. Claudell, lefty. Get him out, and Rick Shoe will hit. Lansford hugging the line at 3rd base.
We've had some different players in this ball game that we've seen, some that we haven't seen yet until Mike Norris warming up, that trying to continue their careers along. Rick Shoe, one of those. The Phillies with Baltimore last year.
But the type of guys that can really make the slight difference in winning a pennant and losing one.
And that's one of the things that if California wants to stay with Oakland all year, they need to keep a good solid bench.
Shoe 3 for 10 this year as he opened the season at 3rd base when Howell was still bothered. The ankle.
Honeycutt tough right here. First 2 pitches, so those last 2 pitches to Shoe in the same spot, same type pitch that he sawed off Bichette on.
2-1. 1 out, California 9th in a 5-5 game. Angels last year at home, murder, she wrote, in 1-run games. Rooster. Doug Rader hopes to pull one out here in the bottom of the 9th. 3-1 pitch by Honeycutt. Hit to left field. Henderson, a long run. Weiss out. Look at the play that Weiss makes down the left field line. Walt Weiss simply laid out.
Tremendous play by Walt Weiss. Nobody in the ballpark thought he had a chance except himself. Watch after he makes the dive. He knows he's headed right to the fence, and he tries to pop up as quickly as he can to avoid jamming his shoulder or head into the fence, and he's able to do that too. So not only did he catch the pop fly, he knew exactly where he was and was able to scramble up and not bang into that fence.
The uniform looks like someone on the All-Madden team.
What a play.
Lance Parrish singled in the 2nd, rounded to 3rd in the 4th, struck out looking in the 6th. Good one tonight here from the Big A. Parrish, the grounder to Lansford. Plenty of time. We're going overtime after 9, tied at 5. Here in Anaheim, we're going to the 10th inning. And a song you hear in the background, Let's Spend the Night Together, and that's what we're doing as we creep towards midnight Mountain Time zone. Chris Berman along with Tommy Hutton, we're sure glad you could watch this game and watch plays like Weiss made in the bottom half of the 9th inning. And don't forget, after the end of the game, Sports Center with Eric Clemens and Ann Montgomery, including hockey highlights, Game 7, the Whale and the Bruins. NBA highlights, Lakers clinched their division tonight in a one-pointer. Eric and Ann will have all of it coming up. But that's assuming this ball game ends, which it will eventually. 2 homers for each team, one of them hit by this man, Carney Lansford. Batting in the top of the 10th against Mark Eichhorn. Grounds to 1 foul. Lansford 2 for 4, singled and homered off Mark Langston. And grounded a short, grounded a second. There's a shot that's down the left field line. Rick Shue, who's gone into left field, up with it quickly. Lansford trying for 2. Safe. And the A's have the leadoff man in scoring position, Carney Lansford, who is just ripping the ball this year. Above 400 already this year. Gets the A's in a good position to lead off the 10th.
Eichhorn leads that forkball right out over the middle of the plate to a hot hitter. Lansford had 4 hits on Saturday, and he's right back in a groove with 3 tonight. Also in left field is Rick Shue. We mentioned that.
Bichette went to right.
He's not a left fielder. He stayed in the game, and Doug Rader put him in left, moving Bichette to right. He wouldn't have had him. Any left fielder wouldn't have had him at second base, but keep that in mind on any base hit to left field.
Canseco 2 for 4 tonight. Has a chance with a base hit to knock in the go-ahead run. Jose DHing tonight. Ball a little bit low. Just with a couple RBIs going in, picked up one, back third one this year with a double in the 5th inning, scoring Ricky Henderson. And Eichhorn is 2-1 to Jose Canseco.
The thing that Eichhorn might be thinking right here, you hate to put more base runners on in a tie ball game when you're in extra innings. But he has first base open. He has McGuire on deck, who can hit a double play ball. And Eichhorn is a sinker ball, fork ball, keeps the ball down type pitcher. So Canseco may not see anything.
He can also hit a home run, as he did off Langston back in the 3rd inning.
If you had a pitcher out there who didn't have very good control, you'd worry about putting more people on base. But Eichhorn throws strikes, knows what Canseco can do, but also in the back of his mind knows what McGuire can do. He's seen it tonight.
Lansford, lead off second base. Canseco skies one to center. Lansford tagging. He's going to go on Devon White. And he is going to be thrown out. The gamble does not pay off as Howell makes the tag on a good throw from White.
Well, you talk about seeing it all in this ball game tonight. Canseco lifts one. Lansford, realizing that Canseco couldn't move him to third, thought this was his next best chance. But the answer to that try was the throw by Devon White. Give Howell some credit. He blocked third base, and he had to make a catch on a short hop throw by White, who got himself in good position. He moved back a few steps, was able to get his momentum headed toward third. That's why it was a strong throw, but it took Howell to make the catch to make the play complete.
So now Eichhorn gets to work to Mark McGuire with the bases empty and 2 down. An 8-5 DP. Outside again, 2-0.
So how quickly things can change. Eichhorn a pitch away from walking Canseco. Runners at first and second. Nobody out.